So I call this meeting of the Bethel Public Site and Building Commission to order at 7:01. And
Good evening, everybody.
oh, there you are. Yay.
Sorry.
That's okay. We were just starting.
Okay, good.
So I don't see a flag, so we're not gonna.
Oh, I got a flag.
Oh, you got a flag. There it is. Okay, join me in the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of
United
America,
States of America,
to the republic for
Republic
which it stands,
and
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
justice for all. Thank you. That wasn't too bad. We're a little out of sync, but that's okay. So public input, and I don't see any public because everybody on here is part of the team. And the correspondence, everything we have is related to the projects, unless Kathy has something that came in at the last minute. She says no. So we have approval of meeting minutes from our last regular meeting of September 22nd, 2020. So I make a motion that we approve those regular meeting minutes from our regular meeting of,
I'll second it.
who was that, Gil?
Gil.
Okay, Gil second. You've all had, Kathy sent those out in advance, so you've had lots of time to review those. Anything anybody has that needs to be updated or corrected? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And does anybody have to abstain?
Dane.
Yeah, Dino wasn't here and Dave. Okay, so Dave and Dino abstain. And so we'll move on. That's that. So old business, Rockwell and Johnson Schools, we have the construction progress update and schedule update. And Ken, are you up for ready for that?
Yes.
Okay, so so is this going to be a complete construction update? We're not focusing on like punch list or any of that kind of stuff.
No, it'd be just the construction, sure.
Okay, and so let's let Ken get through this. If you have a question on specific items, we can get into those. So, were you going to share it, Geraldine, or not?
Yeah, I'm working it. Yep, I'm here. I'm working on it. Where's my share here?
Just didn't know if we wanted to wait until Ken, or not have Ken start till you got the share up.
There we go.
There we go.
This is Johnson.
Okay, so
Okay. Sorry.
go ahead, Ken.
Okay. All right. So this is Johnson, the work from the last period. We did some work in the 5th grade addition. Baseboard heater was installed. And if you go through, most notably is the cafeteria shot blast moisture mitigation was done and floor leveling. And then we got the VCT installed in there, and the ceiling clouds and wood slat ceiling should not be at 100%. That was a mistake. So that it did start the gridding and everything, but we're not complete with the ceiling in that room. It was projected, but they're still working in there. We need a couple more days. And then if we go to the work in progress. For the amphitheater concrete walks, patio prep and placement. Right now, the steps out there at the amphitheater, and they're going to be prepping for the concrete. They had a couple bad days of weather this week, but that's still on the schedule for this week. The gym, the stage was being painted. The phenolic panels were going up. Acoustical wall panels were going, they did go up on the walls. So that's a lot further along than 25. Health classroom VCT. Site contractor has been working on hydro seeding and planting trees. The site lights have started, but they're not completed. The ensemble was shot blasted, moisture mitigated today. So that's, they just have to come in and level it now. Then the cafeteria clouds and wood ceilings are probably a little bit more than 60%. And then for work that's coming up, the next big item will be the wood floor delivery. And everybody out of the gym and get the wood floor started. That's it for Johnson.
So Ken, this might also be a good time to talk about turnover of work, future, sort of the schedule ongoing. Last Thursday at the meeting, Christine solicited a commitment to have certain areas turned over, starting the week of the 19th.
Right. I did find out what Ted talked to her about. It was the delivery of furniture. And Chris Baldwin was there today. And he went through and he said he did not have a problem with furniture being delivered for Monday.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So that was week 1, and then the following week, working towards that TCO that we talked about, Ken, so that we could start to expand the space because it's getting cold out and we need more alternate spaces for our students.
Yes.
We're talking about Johnson right now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Johnson.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think that's possible by the end of October. Yes.
Yeah, I was thinking the first week of November, actually.
Right. So the notes, yes. So the notes I have is that the turnover would be the end of October with the TCO inspection and potential resolution of any TCO issues that first week of November. So November 2nd to the 9th. And then starting the 9th, you might have the use of those spaces. I think those are the notes that I have. And then the gym would follow that.
Right, with yeah, that was my understanding too, that the gym would come later.
Right.
Yes.
So is that still a schedule that you can do, Ken?
Yes.
Because we need between the October 19th date, that tentative date for furniture, it's not just furniture, it's the AV equipment, it's all the other owner vendor work that has to happen in conjunction with getting the TCO from Chris. So that would span from October 19th potentially to November 9th or so, and with the target that the space would be actually available to populate sometime around November 9th.
Did they do the ceiling inspections? Did Chris do it, or is it too soon?
He was there looking at them because a lot of the ceilings that you're looking at are exposed even when they're finished with the clouds, and the portions that aren't, he has been looking at as well. So yes.
Nancy, I have a question.
Sure.
Hey, Ken, in the cafeteria at Johnson, those large concrete holes in the wall, have they been patched?
Are you talking about the interior windows?
No, it's the hallway facing, yeah, the interior windows, yes, the hallway
Yeah.
facing that. Yes,
Yes.
correct.
There are some, there's some patching that Mason needs to do there on the right side, and then along some of the jambs of the windows, there's some holes if those are the ones you're talking about.
Yeah, those and a few others, but
Bob, we also had a mess of them in the kitchen area too.
that's correct. I was just gonna say that. There's others too, before we get too far in the finished end with the painting and all that.
Because some of that space has already been painted. So now they're gonna have to come back and paint again once you do the patching.
Yeah, we'll get it patched and painted.
So
Can I?
go ahead, Roy.
Can we also ask questions on some of the flooring material in that hallway going between the kitchen and the gym?
Yep.
And actually going out the exit stairs? Can I talk about that now or not?
Yep.
Okay, I just have a question as far as how that's going to be finished. The area where the tile ends going down the exit stairs going to the north, out the main doors out there, the tile ended about 2 inches short of the edge of the stairs. So it doesn't, I'm trying to understand how that's going to be handled, Ken. Also, I'd like to understand how we're going to handle the longitudinal line between the tile going down the hallway that comes out about 2 feet out into the existing floors. And it's about a ½ an inch higher. So there's a aluminum strip along there that sure looks like a stumble bump.
The first part would be, I believe you're talking about stair 4. The tile stopped short of a stair because apparently the tile person didn't know what they were supposed to be doing there. So that is going to be removed and corrected. The tile.
But how is that going to be corrected? Because there's going to be difference in stair heights, Ken. That's what I'm concerned about.
Oh yeah, no. I've talked to the flooring contractor, and we're gonna go over on what we have to do, whether something has to be chipped out or exactly what is supposed to happen there. So I don't have the answer 100% what's going to take place, but it's not staying like it is.
Okay, because I'm assuming, I'm kind of just trying to get things on record. I'm assuming I don't want to end up with a change order on these things.
No, I know that.
Well, I'm frustrated because the work has already been done. It's all got to be chipped up again, and we're trying to finish the building. So
I know.
that's frustrating.
So let me get this clear. You're gonna do the top of that stair, but what about what Roy was just saying? That whole strip all the way down the hallway? Is there any plan for that?
That's a question for Joe, because we tried that a long time ago because it didn't look right on what we were doing, and we were told to leave it. That's how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, the
Don't leave it
tile-
for me.
Yeah, the
Well-
tile is supposed to be 2 feet out. It's supposed to follow what's happening in the ceiling. So we're looking at, I believe there's an RFI, or there will be, on selecting a rubber transition reducer there instead of
Okay.
the metal piece that's not working. It's not working in multiple locations.
Okay, so you are going to address it somehow, Joe.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
We're looking to. I got to match a color. I'm gonna have to do it from photos, and then we'll address I'm gonna have to have Ken get me some height so I could tell if it needs to be 2 inches or 4 inches to make it ADA compatible.
Okay, thanks. That's kind of what I wanted to hear. So good. Thank you, Joe.
You're welcome.
The last thing I have for Johnson is, Ken, I know you've been getting these emails because I've been sending them to you. What are we going to do with this septic at the nurse's room?
So I have him coming tomorrow at 1, but I will try to call him early and see if I can get him any earlier. I didn't realize till later in the day that it was actually filling the room up and coming out of the doorway. So,
Yeah.
When I had first heard, I thought it was just bubbling into the drain, and then so my thinking was that you had school tomorrow morning, so I didn't want to have the plumber come in to the nurse's area in the morning. So I will call him and see if I can get him in there earlier.
I had a couple more items that I'd like to just bring up. One concern I know came up from Eileen Earl on the softball field. You know, the drainage now has been dumping down into the lower softball field, which has caused pretty extensive flooding and siltation in that area. So, you know, I think there's two issues. Number one, to solve the issue of the runoff going down there. And number two is, you know, that all that silt either has to be landscape taken out and re-landscaped. So, and I know Eileen is really expressing some concerns at this time.
So there is a silt fence up protecting the field. And
Two of them.
there's drainage that has silt sacks, and they did check the drainage lines. And
Well, one of the problems is, Ken, is that the silt fence has been running around that silt fence for a long time. So it's caused extensive amount of siltation down in the lower part of the field. So, you know, somehow I think Earth Movers is going to have to be responsible and clean up the mess that's there.
And there's also been more, Eileen's expressed concern, and several other people have seen just an immense amount of flooding in that field that wasn't there before.
And the other item that I'm still have concerns on, and I'm assuming it's going to get straightened out, is on the site lighting, as far as putting the adjusting nuts on all the poles. I'm assuming we're not going to be looking at a change order on that either.
We
no,
better,
we did investigate what went on there, and there was free drainage, and we haven't introduced any new water to the field. So
That's not exactly true, Ken. That
Oh.
the water has been going right past that catch basin because the catch basin is covered over and it's ending up down in the softball field. Just go out and take a look at it.
I have. I've seen the field a lot of times with a lot of water on it before we even started.
Well, the silt
this is
didn't get
different.
the silt didn't get down there by itself, okay?
Okay.
So there was no other way for it to happen. So, you know, just clean it up.
He's right. This is something I have pictures of that, you know, it wasn't like that before. That field, I'll agree with Ken. That field always flooded. It always held water because my daughter's played on that field for years. But now the back of the dugout has a foot and a half of silt against it, and it's washed around. That's due to the construction, not from normal conditions. So,
Correct. That'll get cleaned up.
thank you.
And then if we jump over to the site lighting, I'm assuming that they're going to be corrected, you know, without a change order or a mess of arguments.
Correct. Yeah. No, that was pointed out that there's double nutting called for in the drawings, and that's what they'll do.
And is it possible we can get a couple of them on? It's starting to get a little dark in the mornings now when the staff's arriving.
Yes, they were scheduled for tomorrow to start, and hopefully by the end of the day they can get them on. I will talk to them in the morning.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
anything else?
Yeah.
Nancy,
Yeah,
is this the time to talk about the extending that field over there on that change order for alternate 8, I think it was, alternate 8 or 5?
I believe it's 8.
All right, I talked to Beth Cavagna, and it's all taken care of. You can proceed if Dr. Carver still wants to proceed with that change order. She said it's okay. She talked to the zoning board, and they agreed that, you know, that should have been part of the original approval. So it's all set to go.
That's good to hear it.
Okay,
So your committee has to get an authorization or approval to proceed with that change order.
well, we need an actual do we have an actual change order for it?
I
I
thought it
think
was-
we,
Yeah, one was submitted.
I
yeah,
thought it was an alternate. Am I wrong, Geraldine?
Yeah,
It was an alternate that was not adopted at the time of the GMP approval due to budget and cost reasons. So instead of the $26,000 alternate price, Ken went back to the subs and got a current price because now it's a year and a half later. And we do have that amount. It's 39 something. $39,638. And we can discuss that now or with the change orders or with the budget conversation. I have it listed on the new budget analysis, so kind of up to you all.
I just would like to hear it with the budget analysis, just kind of where we are with everything. That's just my opinion.
And that was the plan, to sort of present that as one of the many, cost centers that we see coming before completion, so.
okay, so let's do it then.
Okay.
So is there anything more on Johnson? Any questions or et cetera for Ken? And Ken, do you have anything else for us on Johnson?
I had a question regarding the security cameras and different things, the technology side, whether those things are going on now or, where they are.
So they are. The update on the security on the camera system is that ESC completed the underlying infrastructure at Johnson in all of the occupied areas late last week. They completed, and so those cameras, well, let me back up. So they completed the underlying infrastructure before last week. E+ patched in the Johnson security system to the server, and it is now available back to ESC to actually work on programming the cameras. At and I'm just going to do this together. At Rockwell, the underlying infrastructure for the security system was completed last Friday, and E+, who is the owner's vendor, will be out tomorrow to patch in the system to the server. And then again, ESC then will have access to all those camera feeds, and they'll start bringing them online. So the last conversation I had with ESC in terms of security today was that they are going to now, or after end of business day tomorrow, they'll start bringing cameras up online, but it's going to take a little bit because there are over 100 cameras at Johnson alone. So as they're brought up online, they're going to add them to the system. And then at some point when there's a sort of a bulk, sort of a critical mass of cameras, Bob, is when they'll come back to you or staff to actually look at the positioning, and talk about the actual programming. It's not going to happen as soon as we thought. So because of the number of cameras that they have to bring online.
Yeah, no problem. We kind of wanted the resource officer, the principal, myself, involved in the aiming and the labeling of the cameras.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and that's what I was talking with them about today. How soon could that happen? I was kind of thinking that would be this week. But they're saying that it's going to take them a few days to actually get all the cameras up online on the system. So
Yeah.
I'm guessing next week, end of next week, beginning of the following week. But they are actively bringing up everything that is available in the areas that are not still under construction.
Gerald, I don't know if you know that Rick and I both have access now to the automation system for both buildings. It's only read only, but that's fine.
Right, read only. So you're not controlling, but at least you're able to see what's going on, read what they're seeing,
Right.
and make adjustments. Yep.
So we're ready for Rockwell, or do we have anything more on Johnson that anybody has? I actually just thought of something. Sorry, you don't need the report, but with the site work at Johnson, are things moving along, Ken? Are we seeing things getting done?
Yes, they're finishing, doing some more of their screening of the topsoil for some of the embankments. They're finishing that up, and the playground, I'll just call it the basketball court and playground area, are prepared. And there's just one answer I got to get from Joe on the, there's a dotted line on one side. I just need to find out what that was, because it's not telling us there's a separation between grass and mulch. We need to know, if there's going to be a curb there or what we need to put there. But other than that, that's coming along. We've got a little bit of concrete at the patio to pour this week and the sidewalk back there.
Do we know when the playground will be delivered?
They're going to start installation on the 26th.
Of October?
Yep.
Oh, awesome.
The equipment is all shipping on the 21st. They figure they can get it here on the 26th, and they'll work through that week installing. So the playground equipment vendor comes in and puts in all of the, the footings for the equipment, puts in the equipment, and then earth movers will mulch around it. So you should also have that towards the beginning of November, except for there are a couple of items that are back ordered on the Johnson side, the picnic table, the tables, stuff like that. But the playground equipment is all going to go in starting on the 26th.
Hey, Geraldine, when we walked around last week, we noticed that a few of the basketball hoops and poles were removed out of Johnson, and they're just laying on the ground. Hey, Ken, is there some plan about putting those back, or
They've had-
are new ones going in?
They have new ones coming.
Oh, all right.
So does that mean that whatever's laying on the ground belongs to the schools and you could take someplace else, Ken, or is that going out?
I'm saying it's going to be put in a dumpster, but if the school wants it, I'm certain that they'll say, "You go ahead and take it."
Are they in good shape, Bob?
It's hard to tell. They're in a big
What?
pile.
Yeah. A couple of them might be, but there was a couple that were bent.
Okay.
I know, one of them I know was bent up pretty bad.
Yeah, you're talking about a 4-inch pipe bent, so took some trauma.
Yep.
So Bob, you gonna check them to see if you want them, or?
I won't be able to for at least a couple weeks.
Oh,
Yeah, Bob's out. Bob's out as of tomorrow for a couple weeks. So I'll send somebody out. I'll send a PE teacher down just to look at them. And maybe Eileen could look at them also, see if there's anywhere she would want them in a park or something.
okay. Are you gonna check with Eileen?
I can.
Okay.
I'll gladly take a ride over and take a look if you want.
Okay, Dave, even better.
But definitely check with Eileen, just to make sure.
Yeah, I will. I'm doing it. I have to talk to her anyway, so I'll be happy to.
So like if schools can't use them, then Park and Rec might be able to use
Yeah,
them.
there might be a park that they want to put them up in.
Okay. So, Rockwell.
Okay. So we were prepping over there for the playground and basketball court. They paved the basketball court today. It's not on here, but they paved it today. They were waiting for a good day and they snuck in there and got it paved today. So the drainage is installed. Then we were going to the music area, special ed. We've put in a ceiling grid. Well, those rooms at the special ed and music are pretty close to completion right now. But as far as from last meeting, we've been working on the edge metal for the roofing, cafeteria metal studs drywall for the soffits, the drywall at the platform. We did all the drywall at the platform walls. So some of the work that's ongoing right now for talked about the basketball court, the slope mesh and C did not start. I was expecting that to start. I'm sure it's weather related. The music and special ed, the casework contractor came in and installed the casework, and let's see, cafeteria, the shot blast took place, some moisture mitigation, and they leveled it, so that's been leveled now. We can get in there and start the ceiling clouds and get that going to catch up with Johnson. So I think that's it. We're expecting to get the bus canopy started. We're talking with QSR on that. We're hoping to start that next week.
So is that, would that open up the front and back from through the lobby, Ken?
It would, yeah. As soon as that got completed, there's a fair amount of work in there because of the there's some tube steel, and then there's like a glass ceiling when you come in.
Yep.
And then it did get word that the display case is coming tomorrow, so that's part of that wall that's going to come apart. Put the display case in.
So when do you think we'll get access to those doors?
I'm going to say by the end of the month.
Okay. And can I just ask to go back to your the unoccupied space? So did I hear you say that we could get the special ed, the rooms before the construction barrier, we can get them on the same timeline as Johnson in terms of getting a TCO for that space and the cafeteria, or just that front area?
Well, I still have some ceiling inspections, so I'm a little, I don't know that I'd be able to get it sooner than the end of the month. It's very close. There is one significant RFI in that room that I know that probably the structural engineer must be looking at for where a column was taken out. We might have to get in there to do a connection to a beam, but I still think that shooting for the end of the month for both those spaces is doable, but I don't think it would be sooner.
Okay.
So Ken, with talking about doing the bus canopy, you talked about having QSR in there. So are they back in the mix and working and getting stuff done on both schools?
So Nancy, the easy answer to that is we've got progress, but not the progress we would like to have, or as much of the progress as we would like to have. Where we're at right now is, I spoke to them about what we talked about at the addition, the dollar value there. And I expressed to them that, the only reason this is even being entertained is because we want to try to get the front of Johnson finished. And that anything I brought back to the board would have to include a commitment as to when that front would start and a schedule to when it's going to be completed. So unfortunately, I was expecting that phone call tonight from them with that commitment. I didn't receive it. So a little disappointing on that end. I do think we've at least got them to the point where they're producing on the job, they're bringing work out to the job. But again, not as much progress as should have been made over the past 2 weeks.
Well, hey, Jim, when do you think you'd have an answer on that? And I meant to ask you this on the Johnson entry before, but, I figured it'd come up sooner or later on both of them.
Sure. Well, it's 3 times a day with these guys. So
Yeah.
Mind reaching out to Geraldine, letting her know what I get out of them tomorrow, and she can update you guys on it.
Yeah, even if we have to do a special meeting or something like that, to at least give you an answer, get these things wrapped up.
Sure. Okay.
it's super important for us too. I mean, we hear you.
So with the, in general, gym and cafeteria at Rockwell, there's work progressing there?
Cafeteria?
The cafeteria and the, yeah.
Yes.
And are there any issues like that have to be resolved before you can keep the, get the work done or keep the work going?
Well, we have a few change orders in that we're going to be proceeding on, and we're hoping that we'll be able to get them approved. Our GMP is not very good right now at Rockwell, so we're hoping that these extras that we believe are related to design issues are approved so that they are coming out of the owner's contingency. But we are proceeding.
So are there other things at Rockwell, like the roof, that will be part of either change orders or the budget review?
There are. We've decided that we're going to go ahead and not use the duct supports that were on the drawings. We're going to go ahead and use the ones that will sit on the roof and not ever create a leak because there's a potential caulking failure or what have you. So that's our direction. We've told Action Air to proceed, and we've done the same with Young's, and we're going to go in that direction so that we can get this wrapped up and get all that duct insulated and protected before it gets too cold.
And does that have the change order with it, Ken?
Yes, that one did. It was, without it right in front of me, it was like around 140,000, but the labor portion for Action Air was going to be on a ticket. The material was 20,000, but there is going to be costs for that.
So is it a 140 plus the 20, or what?
It should be, that should be total.
What, 140 total?
Yeah, it won't be more than that.
I think I saw 146 in the change order, so.
Okay.
Yeah, and they were distributed and they're up on the shared drive. So I thought we could review that if we needed to, because last we knew there were two alternatives, but it sounds like, Ken, you've committed to one of the two alternatives. So that's what we would be looking at.
Yes.
Okay, on that, is that an approved by the roofing manufacturer? Or is that gonna, do we have any warranty problems?
There will not be warranty problems with using this.
Okay,
Is that also the same case for the gas line too?
That was always the sitting on top of the roof. So we didn't have, that was changed early on. And we used the rubber sit on top of the roof type stands for the gas pipe.
Oh, okay.
now both roofs are gonna be handled that way?
That is correct.
Okay,
Both roofs meaning,
But
Uh,
what do you mean by both roofs, Roy?
both schools?
Both schools?
and that's correct. Yep. I was thinking both schools, but each level at both schools they'll all be the same.
Okay,
wait,
So they're covering 100% of both schools' roofs.
But they're not the same roofer on both schools, correct?
Right. We only have to fix the high level above the classroom, the existing classrooms at Rockwell.
Yeah, at Johnson, we are already using these duct supports that are going to be replaced.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, so there's no change at Johnson, it's just at Rockwell.
Got it.
Just out of curiosity, how does that happen?
Yeah,
Like, I just don't understand if it was installed correctly in one school, or is it a different design?
It's two different roofers, so they submitted
but-
different products.
Yeah, but they're the same architect and
No,
engineer.
that's not correct. No,
No?
it's the same mechanical support detail. It's just the option was submitted and approved to support it, do an independent support. It didn't have anything to do with who the roofer is. This is a mechanical detail.
still having a little bit of a hard time understanding without looking at plans, but you know, my concern is the cost on two of them. You're looking at what, close to $300,000.
No, it'd only be the one school, the Rockwell school.
It's only the 146, I believe, right, Geraldine?
Correct, 146 at one school, everything's fine at Johnson. What
Oh.
essentially is happening is that Rockwell now will match Johnson.
Okay. I mean, what, you know, I hear you, and I'm glad we're moving forward with this finally. But, you know, it seems like the same architect did the plans of both buildings, and we got two different things, one right and one incorrect. So I think you know which one I'm going to be leaning towards. So I'm just concerned. That's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money in a budget that's
And-
dwindling to nothing.
Yeah,
Well, I just-
obviously we got to get it done. I don't question the decision to make it happen. So.
And it's something obviously we'll be looking at, but it wouldn't surprise me that estimate on his labor is high, and that's why we direct him to proceed on T&M.
Okay,
Can,
good.
can we ask the question to why, or do we know why two different designs are accepted? I can't wrap my head around it. I'm sorry. It's,
You can. This is the issue, Dave, where that mechanical detail for the duct support and whether or not you're waterproofing over the top of it. When you look at what the independent supports give you as far as longevity and just a much cleaner and neater job when it comes to the interaction with your roof. For the longevity of the project and the school and everything that you need to do up there, and you don't want to have to come back to these things or worry about, you know, a caulk breaking down or anything like that. To me, it's, you know, there's only really one right way to do this.
I agree. I couldn't agree with you more. That's why I'm kind of befuddled that it was like the same design, but yet two different supports were accepted. That's all. I can't.
Well, but I think what I understand Joe Collada to say was that it wasn't specifically the roofer, but the HVAC people and the supports they chose to use in their installation, or am I wrong with that?
Yeah, it's the same details at both schools. So I'd have to look into the spec to see if there was different options within the spec to support the ducts.
But that's even to that point, Joe, is why would we do, even if there were three choices, we would take one choice and not do two, is what I'm getting at. Is I know they're two separate jobs. I completely understand, you know, two separate everything, but it's ductwork on a roof. You've got three choices, just say three choices.
Right.
And plus,
One
why did we
contractor
catch it
picks A,
early?
One contractor picks B. Everybody looks at it, the engineer, the architect, whoever, and then we decide, you know what, we're going to go with B, so let's do B. As opposed to, you want to do A? Okay, you do A and you do B. That's,
Yeah, I'm not sure why it was submitted one way on Johnson and differently on Rockwell, and then changed in the middle at Rockwell.
The way it came,
Don't have
the way it came about, David, is because of the phasing of the job. That roof of Rockwell happened so early, and the duct support was needed so early. So the duct support that's on the contract drawing is what they provided there. Seeing, you know, what that duct support was going to be asked to do is when the and even earlier, the contractors came and asked for, to use these independent supports. So that's why the rest of the job has the independent supports, but that portion that was done so much earlier has the detailed duct supports. It just,
Okay, that
it's not
steers me in
a
the right
clean answer
direction.
for you, but that's the background of it.
Okay, thank you.
That's helpful. Thanks.
We still have another large expense coming up, which is the driveway, repairing the back loop. Is that going to be another large change order?
He's working on it. He asked me a few questions about it today because he said that the big pine tree has to come down. I said, well, it's got to come down. And he's waiting for a price from the guy who does his tree cutting. So I couldn't tell you what the order of magnitude is for that, but he is working on the price. I should have it in a day or two.
What is, so was that just poorly designed? I guess I don't understand why that happened either.
It's a good question.
And it's a shame that tree's got to come down because that's providing some shade on the playground.
We can tell you that we confirmed with the as-built that what was designed is what was installed.
Hey, everybody, this is Dan Krober with Milo McBroom. Good to see you all, and amazing to see the grind that you go through here. So I'm happy to answer that. So when we first designed the driveway is 28 feet wide, which is actually pretty wide with 25-foot radiuses. We ran what's called auto turning movements for a fire truck to come out of that driveway. Sent that to the fire marshal. That was approved. So as I understand, the fire truck was approved to go over the center line. So if you're taking the issues are as you take a right out of the bus loop driveway, as I understand it, and which we've kind of confirmed through some additional turning movements, the bus will cross over for a small amount of time over the center line. I think that's one of the concerns before it gets back into its given lane. The second concern is as a bus is turning right into the driveway, there's about a 1 foot overlap. If a bus is sitting directly on the center line, turning out, and a bus is trying to turn right in, that bus turning in needs to wait until the bus exits. So that's my understanding of the concerns. So we had run the turning movements for a fire truck, sent that through. It did cross over the center line, and we kind of stopped at that. So the potential fix here, if we want to keep, I think the bus turning in on to the right and having to wait a couple seconds for a bus to exit probably isn't that much of a concern to us. At least it's not a real safety issue. It's a convenience and a few second delay in that movement. The larger concern is, and I'm not sure what percentage of buses are actually turning right, but when a bus turns right, crossing over the center line, and the issue is it's actually not the driveway. It's Whittlesey Road is a very narrow, essentially driveway. It's only about 22 feet wide. So where our driveway into the school bus is 28 feet wide, which is much wider than Whittlesey. The problem is when you go to make that turn, you need such a broad radius on that right turn in order to make it and not cross the center line. So it's the driveway actually, if you were turning onto a typical road width, wouldn't be a problem at all. You'd be able to turn onto Whittlesey without an issue. If it were, 28 feet wide on Whittlesey, like our driveway is, you wouldn't have an issue there.
But that's what's crossing the line though, in order to make that turn.
Yeah, understood.
Well, that's the whole thing. Here we have a chance to do it right and not have to cross the line. And now we're back to what we had before. A tight road, tight driveway, difficult turns.
Right. Well, there was no.
We've got to think towards the future a little bit. We can't. All right, I'll shut up.
No, it's a fair question. We've provided turning movements. We looked at multiple options, how to minimize the potential for rework in order to accommodate this. We looked at probably 4 or 5 different options. We feel like the option we put forth in a sketch on October 2nd is probably the most prudent one, requiring the least amount of work. There's the need to, what we'd really like to avoid is changing any of the structures that are out there, the catch basin structures, manhole structures. As you turn right, there's a small modification to the radius from the catch basin at, and I don't know if anybody has the ability to pull up the sketch, it might be easier to walk through, but there's a minor change to a curb and maybe a 3-foot widening of asphalt on that right turn. The bigger change is in order to not impact, and Bob, this may change given where the pine tree is, if that's of larger concern. We don't have that plotted specifically on the sketch.
Well, it's not a large concern. It's just that the fact that, we lost so much of the greenery around there. It'd be a shame to lose a large tree like that.
Yeah, and it's on what side of the road? As you pull in, it's on the right?
It's on the right, correct.
Yeah.
Can I ask a stupid question? And maybe this is a question for Terry. Because it was designed for buses, right, Dan?
Correct.
So you didn't model it with the buses, just the fire truck? Is that because fire trucks are bigger?
No, the fire marshal specifically asked for the fire truck.
Okay.
So we were modeling it for that.
So we've actually been operating and swapped the parent pickup and the bus. The buses are still coming up the front as they always have. If it's going to be a big expense deal, why not just keep the current flow?
I think that's certainly an option. I think we originally looked at the buses back there because there's additional queuing. I know I can tell you from my kids' school that there's a lot more kids getting dropped off right now than there are. So right now, my sense is that probably actually would work out better for you because you probably have more room to queue back there. In the long term, I want to say I'd have to look through it. I think we modeled something like 18 buses being able to queue in that bus loop. We can look at that. You could probably get almost that same amount of buses out front, and you could easily. It's a big driveway. Honestly, it's 28 feet wide. Is a significant driveway. It's a significant width, and one of the things you want to try to avoid is making something that's too big, right? Where you have a free flow of and people are traveling too fast around kids. I'm not going to dismiss the fact that it's not ideal to have a bus crossing over the center line here. But if that's an option, Dr. Carver, of having the buses out front and that's functioning okay, a car, a truck, an SUV, a really large SUV will make this turn without an issue. It's really the bus because it has a larger turning radius.
Excuse me, may I say something, Nancy?
Yes.
Selectman Straighten.
Yes.
It should have been designed for school buses to go in and out of that driveway onto the Whittlesey Drive. If Whittlesey Drive needed to be improved, it should have been included in the improvements. There will be never any money in the future to redo this. Now's the time to make it right and make it safe now, not in the future or the least amount of costs or disruption to what's there now. It needs to be right, period. And I'm speaking on as selectman now, as the safety of the school buses going in and out of that driveway onto Whittlesey Drive. Thank you.
So Dr. Carver, I think the question you had was, if it works, if it doesn't matter which way they're coming in, if it works just as fine out front, a car, a truck, everything else can turn out of that driveway completely fine. If it's an operational decision to have the buses out front instead of out back, and there's no difference, then you're okay. If it's an operational difference where you want to have where the buses need to be out back, then that's a different. And honestly, I'd probably recommend that that you do this sketch as well.
Yeah, and the only reason I bring it up, and Mr. Street, and I do hear your point, I really do, is that we have even pre-COVID, Bob, you would agree, we have a tremendous amount of parents that pick up. And even from a traffic flow standpoint, and I think it needs to be looked at. I'm not saying I'm committed either way. I just think it needs to be looked at, because what we're finding is with all the parents coming in the front, it clogs up Whittlesey Extension. And now it's better because they're going to the back bus loop. So Bob, if you think about it, like if you thought, if we were back to normal, let's say, and we had 80 people picking up at Rockwell, which is conceivable. And then you have the same amount picking up at, or maybe even more picking up at Johnson, it backs up the traffic. So I don't, it might even be better if it works to be able to accommodate the amount of buses that have to pull through. So I just think it needs to be looked at. I'm not saying it to cut cost, because I agree with Mr. Straighten. If in the end it's the best, if long term it's the best to continue doing that way. I just think it should be looked at, because the backing up of the traffic on Whittlesey Extension is pretty significant.
And is that new since you started?
No, it's always been that way, right, Bob?
Yeah, COVID made it even worse.
COVID's made it 1,000 times worse, but it's
Dr.
always been
Carver.
a problem. And the only other difference now is that Johnson and Rockwell are at the same time. And you have a school of 700 students right next to a school of, I don't know, 300, right? 350.
330.
330. So you have like 1,000 people, well, potentially. And I'm sensitive to the fact that it's a backup nightmare. So go ahead, Joe.
I was going to ask if you have the same number of buses now that you would have if it wasn't in COVID right now.
It's actually, yes, we would have the same amount of buses.
Okay.
And
And it's
actually
working in the
yes,
front.
it's working fine, because they have, because they're splitting up into 3 groups, and the way because we're all on the same time schedule now, they're going from Berry to Rockwell to Johnson. So we have, I think, 24 in our fleet, Bob. Is it about 24? So they divide up into basically 3. Not obviously 24 does not evenly divide by 3, but they divide up into 3 groups, and they travel in a sequence based on that. And it is working fine.
To include some of your smaller buses too.
Right.
Yeah, if I
Dr.
recall, the 18.
I was going to say, I could
Smaller
certainly have
buses.
our traffic folks go out and observe the current pickup drop off. If that's something you'd like us to do, to see their thoughts on the situation, if they think that makes sense or not, I'm happy to have them go out.
Just Dan, you have to take it with a grain of salt right now, because it's probably double, right, Bob?
Yes, yes.
What it normally is, just because of COVID.
I believe it. I sit in it every morning in my school, and it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So it seems to make sense to be able to use, I mean, originally we looked at changing that whole bus flow parent pickup thing in the back. What's now the whole, supposed to be the bus loop for Rockwell, to make it more efficient. Yet it seems like you have 2 options. You can use whatever you're calling the front and the back, you can use them both for bus pickup and drop off. But you want to have the new one, or the newer one where the portables were. It sounds like it needs a little work to make it safer and more efficient. Is that what we're looking at?
I think what we're talking about is, should we actually swap what's the bus drop off and the parent pickup? I mean,
You don't forget also, this is the new normal, folks.
I know.
Parents aren't going to be, it's bad enough last year, because I used to drive my kids in the morning when I went to work. This is the new normal. People are not going to let their kids take the bus for a long time. So to Christine's point, Dr. Carver's point, maybe we think about, because instead of spending the money to change the curbing in the driveway, you swap them up to where the buses go in the front, where they'd have more room. and the cars in the back where they could hold a lot more cars.
Right.
And it might make a traffic flow a little better. It is a nightmare. I mean, as every parent knows, they're driving their kids to school nowadays. It's a train wreck.
Let's see, one nice thing about that back parking lot, we can queue the cars in and you can have more than one parent open up the door at the same time.
Right.
Where the old way, they would open up the door right at the front door only, and then they would be backing up, because then the kids would be walking up the sidewalk. But in the back, they can. There's a beautiful sidewalk around, nice and wide, and there's multiple parents dropping off at the same time. So the
Right.
cars are coming in and going out a lot quicker than the front. And also in the front, we don't have those stairs anymore going down, and that was a safety hazard.
Right.
Oh, Dan, could I talk to Terry tomorrow and maybe we could call you?
Yes, please. Yeah, and I'm certainly happy to come out and walk with you guys and bring one of our traffic folks. And
Okay.
talk through, kind of look at it live and make some assessments. I think there is some validity to splitting up the cars, one on Whittlesley and one, out front. There could be some validity there.
Yeah, I mean, it's made a huge difference in COVID, I'll tell you that, because it would have been 18 times worse.
But I think it'd be good, though, to know the pricing and know what the options are, Dr. Carver, because I hate to shortchange you later on if you ever did need to use it for buses.
100%. I agree with you, Roy.
I just hate to have this shortchanged. We
Yeah.
spent a lot of money to blast that whole loop in, and we're not getting to use it.
To be fair, though, I think the whole idea always was to separate the buses from the parents.
Right.
So I think that we're still doing the spirit of that, and I just think that it just happenstance with the COVID thing. We realized how easily it works. So yeah, but I agree with you. We should get a price either way.
Yeah, I hate to lose the opportunity, such as Richie Straighten was saying.
Yep.
Now is the opportunity to do this. I don't think we're going to get a shot to redo this.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yep.
Yeah, I would say if you're going to do it, now is certainly the time to do it before
Yes.
final pavement is done. It's only going to get more expensive if you wait, obviously, and then you're going to have a patch, et cetera. So certainly, if Dr. Carver, happy to come out as soon as possible. That's convenient for you. We'll try to help you make a educated decision one way or another, and we'll be here to help you all in whatever decision you make.
Right. And at the end of the day, that's what I want to. It just, like I said, living it seems a little different. So I just want to explore all the options.
Hey, Dan. Hey, Dan.
Yep.
If you are going out to the site, I would appreciate if you could take a look at the slope between the parking lot on the eastern parking lot going down to the existing driveway. There's a change of grade. There's a drainage coming up there where the drainage catch basin is elevated by about a foot out of the grade. Plus, it's not a constant slope all the way up. I'd like you to just take a look at that and just see if that complies with the design that you'd look for.
We'll do. Happy to look.
Roy, actually, there's two structures sticking out of the ground there on that bank side.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to look at. That I can't imagine that Dan had designed it like that.
And what's all those rocks in there too? That's
all part of it.
Yeah, he'll get those rocks cleaned out.
yeah, because we're gonna have to mow it.
Happy to take a look at that.
I have a question. Would we be having this discussion if the buses didn't overlap the middle center line on Whittlesey?
What, the one regarding the slope?
No, about the bus loop.
The rear of the school bus route?
No, I don't think so.
I don't either. So how come we didn't get that right?
That's a good question.
Is the bus turning radius a big surprise to anybody?
No, sir, it's not.
So it appears to me that any solution that involves buses back there is going to require more money. And somebody's going to want more money to do that. And my argument would be, I would think we would have known that from the beginning. What's the turning radius of a school bus?
Yeah, that's fair.
It's a legitimate question.
So I guess there's no answer today.
I'm not sure if that was a rhetorical question or what you were looking for there.
Well, at some point, somebody's going to be looking for a change order to make this road wider, right? And who should bear the cost of that? Is it the town?
I'm not sure if it'll be making the road wider. It might mean making the driveway wider where it comes out so the turn starts back further, I'm guessing.
Well, doing something that changes the configuration.
Yes,
That's going to cost money.
I would assume so. Does a bus have a different turning radius than a fire truck?
No.
It's a
They're
little,
just two,
it's a
the
little,
fire truck would be a lone item on the road. You're not having two buses cross one another. That's where the problem comes in right now, my understanding.
the problem is when a bus takes a right. So when a bus takes a left out of the driveway, there's really no issues. When a bus takes a right, it crosses the center line for about 30 feet, and then it's back in its lane. When a bus turns into the driveway, if the bus is hugging the center line, the bus turning in needs to let the bus exit. That's the issue on the inbound, which, honestly, that piece of it is not, abnormal. That's not the piece that concerns me as much as the bus crossing the center line.
And don't forget, you got mirrors coming out on both sides.
Yeah,
The incoming bus and the exiting bus both have mirrors that stick out a good 18, maybe even a foot.
Yeah, that's right. And so the movements that the software has incorporates that. So the movement, there's another sketch that goes with this that shows what that turning movement looks like. And you could see that they cross. There's a green line and a red line, and they cross without intersecting.
Can I ask Dan one question about something else?
Sure.
Dan, over on, if the commission, the committee accept alternate 8 over at Johnson School, there was a little retaining wall that was to be built there. The town owns all that property. You could just grade that off and the wall would not be needed. Could you just kind of look at that if they accept alternate 8 before they actually do it?
Yeah, I think, and we started to look at that a little bit, and I think that's right. And Joe and I actually walked out there a few weeks ago, and that's right. We were trying to limit the area of disturbance when we put that wall in. It wasn't about trying to lose, fill, which now I understand that there might be a little extra fill. So it will require, obviously, if you don't put the wall in, it will require additional, maybe a couple additional trees to come out. But as that gets laid out, happy to look at that and see if there's an impact to any of the mature vegetation that's there or not.
All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So where are we with the whole bus loop thing? I mean, if we're having, I'm going to call it a problem with the buses entering and exiting in what was designed to be a bus loop, why wasn't this caught sooner? And why was it all put together and we started using it and then we find out it's not working?
I'd like to see what the pricing is first.
Well, but the issue is we shouldn't have to be looking at pricing. It should have all been planned out ahead of time. To Dave Olson's question, I mean, isn't this something that can get figured out way before we start doing grading and throwing pavement down?
Yeah, of course. I mean, of course, we try to plan everything perfectly and design everything perfectly. That's obviously part of our job. So I think to Dr. Carver's point, and I don't disagree that if it's more ideal in the long run to use the front area as the permanent bus drop off, and that's a decision that's independent from this issue, and that's just the right decision to make. Then this area will be completely fine for any of these uses. If that's not the most advantageous long-term solution, and it turns out that the buses really would benefit from being back here, then it's something that suggests implementing.
It was designed for buses. It should be used for buses. Even though they're not using it for buses, it might go back to buses. If it wasn't designed right or built right, it needs to be corrected.
So so the design intent, to go back to what Dr. Carver said, so there's no doubt that your point is correct. I'm not going to argue that. The intent, the reason we created this loop was to try to solve an existing issue where you had cars interacting with buses, and it was just kind of a disaster. So separating the two loops was the intent. That's why we created this loop. So I think, at least from my perspective, I guess what I'm saying is, if indeed it turns out that it's actually better to have the buses out front, and that would be a long-term thing. I'm not saying that we look at this in a short-term lens. If that's the best long-term solution because it actually is a better traffic solution, and that's just how you're going to operate, I guess I'd ask that we consider to keep it, because it's if this turns out to be the parent drop off, there's absolutely no issues. Expanding this driveway apron encourages people to drive faster in the driveways, which isn't great either. Having a big wide throat there is only going to encourage more speed. So there's kind of pros and cons on both sides. But of course, the long-term vision needs to be the right one. If the buses need to be here, then I think we need to address it.
So where are we going with this? We're looking into it, correct? Dan's gonna meet with Christine and/or Terry and who else?
Me.
And Rizzo's going to provide pricing for the sketch.
Just a question, Joe, and maybe you guys know the answer to it. The sketch that we have is constrained by the two structures that are already installed there. Is that wide enough to do everything that you're asking this to do, or is it being constrained because of those two structures? And should we be including the cost to remove those and move those structures over?
No, it's wide enough. If you look at the other sketch, we wouldn't have designed something that didn't, when we looked at this sketch, that was constrained by that.
I actually didn't issue the other sketch, Dan, but I can.
Oh, okay.
I thought that was just for our information. Sorry.
No, we reran the turning movements, and we're certainly comfortable with this, or we wouldn't have suggested it. If we're going to make a modification to fix it, we want to make sure it's fixed to adhere to all the concerns that are being raised.
Okay. So it's going to get looked at and discussed further, but not right now, because everybody, I think, gave all the input that they need on what they think, right? Rich, you're good with all the input you gave, and Roy, David?
Okay.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What else are we going to talk about tonight? Let's see. So just construction progress schedule update. Are we good with that right now? Does anybody have anything more specific about that with Ken and/or Jim? Okay. FF&E technology and playgrounds update. Do we have more on that other than what Geraldine already gave us?
The only other thing I have would be FF&E is that we had some art room tables delivered at Johnson today, and the vendors are in doing punch list replacement of some, furniture that had minor damage. And then we're just waiting on additional spaces to be turned over to schedule the rest of the furniture delivery. So I think we're good on technology. We had the playground update. So we're in good shape on all of those, in all those areas.
Okay. Should we just skip right to the bottom?
Well, let's talk about budget.
Oh, all right.
So usually when I pull up the two budget tracking sheets for the two projects, we're just looking immediately at what contingency we have left. So instead, today, we're going to look sort of at a cash flow or a future expenditure projection. This is combined with both schools and where we're seeing the future budget implications. This spring, out of a meeting that Terry and I had with Bob Kozlowski to confirm that on the town's, that even though the state treats them as two separate projects, on the town side, it is one single expenditure based on the referendum that was passed in 2017. So in terms of the town's finance department, they don't care whether we exceed one project's contingency as long as we don't exceed both projects' budget. So this is an exercise to try and look at where we're at as a combined project, and I tried to put some, and to look at some change orders that we know about, change orders that we're expecting, and throw some numbers at them, and just look at globally, if you were to approve everything at its highest value, what would that do to the combined contingency of the two projects? So before I discuss the detail, we're going to go right to the bottom of the sheet where it shows that currently Rockwell is the first column, and so in the area shaded in blue, the owner's contingency today, before you take any action, at Rockwell is $143,534, and at Johnson is $2,011,800 for a combined contingency on both projects of $2,155,334. So what I did is and then up above, there's a section on PCOs that have actually been submitted to us, and we're going to look at some of those in a minute and look for your approval, but they're broken down into some general areas here. For both Rockwell, first column, and Johnson, the second column, there are PCOs we're recommending that you approve. I didn't detail them out. We'll look at them in a minute. Couple of PCOs for each school that we're recommending that you reject based on an assessment that the scope is within the base, the base construction documents. There are still some change orders that we have not presented to you, so they're still under review, but I include their total value here, even though the idea would be that we're negotiating them down in some cases. We have the two primary feeder location changes that you all tabled a number of probably months ago now that still have to be dealt with, $23,000 at Rockwell and $125,000 at Johnson. Then this duct support replacement issue that we talked about earlier in the amount of $146,423 at Rockwell. And then the field extension at Johnson over here for $39,000. So those are all PCOs that have been submitted and either are under review or we're going to deal with later today. So you see in total, the total for Rockwell, $369, the total for Johnson, $275, total change orders on our plate right now, $645,000. Then there's a number of issues that we do not have change orders on yet, but we know that they are potential cost centers, primarily driven by RFI responses. Now, I just did this off of RFIs that I know that are still out there. I'm not even saying this is everything, but these are the things I could identify right now that have the potential to be costs in the future. The light gray numbers are my numbers that I just threw at some of these some of these items in order to come to a total of what we're expecting to see in future PCOs. So that totals at Rockwell 154,750 and approximately 135,750 at Johnson. So another 290,000 on top of what we know today. Then I added a section here for the additional services requests. I do not have any knowledge of any of the negotiations with Perkins Eastman, so I just used the numbers that were originally presented for both of them. And then we know that we have additional services proposals on the table from IES. I included those numbers here. Those two items total almost $328,000. We do have some items that I know right now are to our benefit in the budget. And so I listed a couple of them there. We are going to look at some invoices from Myers later on tonight. Those invoices are their final invoices, and based on previous increases in the budget that you all approved, we would be seeing a savings in the move cost, $14,000 at Rockwell, over $30,000 at Johnson. And then we have what I think are all the final utility costs, the Eversource, the Crown Castle fiber, and those line items will also should show a credit. So again, at both schools, we're showing a small credit that would then feed back into the contingency as we've done before. When you add up all of these numbers, what we know in PCOs, what we think are coming in PCOs, what we have for additional services and professional fee requests, some credits based on line items that will not hit their limit. We're showing a projected additional cost at Rockwell of $637,466 and an additional cost projected at Johnson, $551,694, for a total between the two schools of $1,189,000. And we know that we have a combined owner's contingency left right now of $2,155,000. So even if all of these worst case scenarios came through, we still are projecting right now that you would come in under budget on the total up here, $65.8 million. You would still have almost $1,966,000 to return to the town. And just as a note, right now the CM contingencies for Rockwell and Johnson, based on the requisition that was presented for tonight, are down here. They're obviously not ours to deal with right now, but it is additional funding that's in there for the project.
Geraldine?
Yes.
I'm sorry, was also that insulation issue at Johnson included in that number?
Yes. So the first the first detail line item under the PCOs expected to come due is to replace the flammable insulation. The last numbers that I had in my notes were like, I don't know, 55 and 65, something like that. So I bumped them up for markups, and so I am carrying a number for that. Yes.
All right, thank you.
And also, as you notice, the bus loop is in there. I don't know if 20,000 is the right number, but I've got a number in there to do work on the bus loop as a projected cost. And again, including the field extension coming out of this budget. So there may be other RFIs or other issues out there between now and December that come up here. But again, what I was trying to point out is that even in the worst case scenario of everything we know today, I'm still projecting that you will have over $900,000 left in the combined budget.
Hey, Geraldine, you covered the environmental ones also?
Well, so we are done with environmental costs. I do have a separate analysis here of the environmental costs at Rockwell. This is sort of the broad information that we're working on in requesting additional approvals from the state for to increase the amount of reimbursement that they would give us.
Right.
This is an accounting here of all of the change orders on Rockwell that were due to abatement issues. It includes the increased testing bills from Enviromed. It includes what's listed here in red on the bottom is this large change order that we're going to talk about a little bit later. It even includes the $11,900 for the plan to retain Weston and Sampson to deal with the boiler room floor abatement in the future. So right now we're looking at an excess cost of abatement at Rockwell of almost $950,000, and that's going to be the basis for our request at the state.
So that's a separate line item.
Well, it is not separate in the sense that everything other than this 146,819 that you have yet to approve tonight has already been incorporated into the budget. So you have already expended it. So when we go back and look at this accounting, it's already out. It's already in this, kind of in the overall budget. What I'm talking about here in the rest of these numbers is even paying that additional abatement cost today, you still have this $2 million in the combined contingency.
Okay.
So it's really already been approved, expended, and dealt with. It's just it's a separate pot of money that we're going to go to the state and look for them to cover, but you've already paid for it.
So just I have to jump off in a minute. Geraldine and Terry and I are going to meet on Thursday. We've already started a conversation with the Office of School Construction to try to address some of the reimbursement on the Rockwell side. And we got some guidance from Michelle Dixon from the State Department. And so we're going to be putting together that hopefully to be submitted in the next couple of weeks, I would imagine. Right, Geraldine?
Absolutely. I think we know all the costs. So
Right.
we know the abatement costs, and then if we can strategize on anything else we might throw in there that they might accept. That's really I think the question.
And so what we talked, when we talked to Michelle Dixon, Terry and I, we talked about anything that could be linked to COVID expenses. And I don't know how or I assume you do, how we can track back that information. And they were talking most specifically about like anything related to time delays or that would have increased cost or supplies. So those were things that they talked about as being something that they might consider too.
So
we also talked about unforeseen things, right, Geraldine?
we did, and I think that's when we start stretching out there.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean as a strategy. Maybe you increase the number of things that you're asking them to cover in order for them to feel good about dropping down to the, to the million that we want. That's part of what we need to discuss, how we need to discuss before we even discuss with Michelle, how we're going to do, what.
Yeah. And from what they said, because they eliminated the form.
Oh, no wonder I couldn't find it.
Yes, correct. And I didn't get a chance to tell you that. So there is no more form. We actually have to write us a letter, and with a very detailed backup of that shows to Michelle's the way she described it is we have to paint the picture of what happened and where the increased cost came in that picture, and they recommended doing both at the same time. So if we're making an adjustment on the Johnson side too, because we don't think we're going to expend that amount, I think it would be helpful to view, even though they're separate projects.
Oh, but we should include an explanation of how we are not going to require the reimbursement that was originally. Okay, yeah.
Right. And they said that we should paint it at the picture at the same time. So, because as we said to Michelle, and I said to Costas a while ago, is we're not asking the state for any more money. In fact, we'll probably be under budget overall. So she thought it was wise to kind of combine those two things, so that we can talk more on Thursday, but I just wanted the committee to know that we're actively working on it.
Well, and that's a good thing to bring up as far as like Geraldine, what we're looking at right now that Geraldine put together is not just an exercise in creating spreadsheets. It's basically looking at how the overall kind of health of our budget is. But it also, in talking about going back to the state, it in increasing the amount, and it's going to be more for Rockwell, of the actual project sort of bottom line, gives the town increased reimbursement in that area. And takes the reimbursement, as Christine was just saying, I think, away from Johnson.
It
So
does.
it's like a trade-off in a way.
It is. I mean, but the state doesn't entirely view it that way. They view it as two separate projects, but I think they're more amenable
Right.
because one project is whatever. So I think we just have to have, we have to paint a good story. So that's the next task.
So I think that in looking at these numbers in this way, it gives us an idea, obviously, as we go into the next couple of lines where we're looking at, you know, not just approving change orders tonight, but potential change orders and potential sort of additions and subtractions so that when you go to the state, you can do it in the most precise way possible. And I think you're going to have to, as you have your meeting and come up with documents, et cetera, Carolyn, Christine, et cetera, you're going to have to find that balance of like asking, like you said, asking for a little bit more. So maybe the state kind of comes down a little bit, like some unforeseen circumstances, but we at least get the amount for all of that abatement, especially at Rockwell. But adding a few more things in that we can hopefully, and COVID related expenses, whether, I don't know if any of the extra cleaning could be put in, et cetera.
So that's the one thing we definitely have are those months of additional cleaning, which were change orders that you approved. The other, you know, trying to figure out what the value is of some of the delays might be more difficult, but if I can, you know, work with Rizzo and we can come up with something that we can actually justify, then we'll throw that in as well.
Because I'm remembering that there were a couple of kind of more specific, like company, I think it might have been Concrete. They couldn't come for a period of time because they were down a huge amount of workers because of isolation and quarantine issues because of exposure.
Right.
So I don't know how we
quantify that. But actually, but it did bring to mind that there was another change order that was due to the fact that something had to happen out of sequence because the concrete guys weren't there. So we'll try and grab what we can and develop justification for any of the costs that we can project and see what they say.
Okay. So this is very helpful, I think. And I don't know if anybody has any other questions about this part. Are we going to then look at the tracking budgets, or are we going to?
Yeah, I'm not going to look at the tracking budget. I just want to keep this in mind. This is on the shared drive. It was not distributed ahead of the meeting. I just came up with it this week. But we can, you know, use it kind of as a live document going forward to continue to track the total contingency that's left. And we can come back and refer to this as we go and look at actual PCOs to be reviewed today too. But I think the bottom line is that even if you were forced to spend, you know, forced to approve everything. In fact, one thing I want to point out is that this number up here, these PCOs submitted, and this total, for instance, at Johnson, at Rockwell of $369,973, it includes the amounts that I'm about to recommend that you reject. So we really tried to take like the most conservative view of where the future cash was going to go out, and in building towards this number of still having $966,000 left. So.
Okay, any questions on this before we move into the next?
Because the next will be PCOs.
Okay.
All right. So at Johnson, we have 4 PCOs that we're going to present, but we are only recommending you approve 2 of them. 2 of them we're recommending rejection, but at this point I want to bring everything in front of you so that you're clear on sort of what we're doing behind the scenes. So PCO 76 at Johnson is to add a soffit framing and framing and drywall and paint to enclose conduit, junction box, electrical items that were located above the ceiling in the cafeteria during coordination and that, you know, just need to be enclosed. So that amount is $6,697.01. And I can flip to the PCO itself. Oh, sorry, wrong one. 76, 76, 76, 76. So again, this is PCO 76 for drywall and framing in response to Bulletin 8 in the amount of $6,697.01.
And you're saying,
And we do recommend that you approve this one. This is, we do want to enclose all of that, all those devices up above the ceiling and give it a clean ceiling. I will note that this is an ad for framing and drywall, but we are also pursuing a credit for the ceiling, the wood ceiling or the clouds that would not be in these areas. So there should be a future credit coming to offset a portion of this, but right now we're just, we just want them to, Verdi to enclose the conduit.
so we don't wait for the credit to come, we're gonna,
But we are pursuing it, yes. And I've got it noted in the PCO log so that we all remember.
I saw that because I was gonna ask about that.
And the soffit's already installed, so.
Exactly, it's not new, not work waiting to be done.
So I make a motion that we approve the proposed change order number 76 for Johnson School in the amount of $6,697.01.
Second.
Dave Olson seconds. Any more questions, comments on this from anyone? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Done.
All right, the second one is at Johnson is PCO 80. This is the cost of adding bollards near the loading dock in front of the gas meters. This obviously was a safety issue, but it also was a request of the building committee to look into adding this. And so we are recommending that you approve this, and it is in the amount of $6,516.62. It's repair to pavement and installation of the bollards. Again, it was a bulletin issued by Perkins Eastman to direct Rizzo to do so.
I make a motion that we approve change order number 80 for which school or Johnson School. Additional bollards in front of the gas meter in the amount of $6,516.62. Dave Olson seconds. Does anybody else have any questions, comments, etc.?
They should have been there originally.
All right, I agree.
Yeah, I don't know how that got left off because not having something in front of a gas meter is.
Didn't the gas meter get relocated for some reason? I'm trying to remember back.
Yeah, it was. I think it might have been in the way of the loading dock. It was in the back. It was in the back more.
Yeah.
So then the gas meter shouldn't have been there in the beginning, so. Okay, anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Done.
All right, then we have two PCOs at Johnson that we will explain to you, but we are recommending they be rejected. You can choose to act or not. PCO 81 was for additional power to some rooftop equipment, and the direction or the analysis by the design team is that these items were known pre-bidding because they were part of a pre-bid RFI, and those power requirements should have been included in the base bid documents. So we rejected this one. And similarly, PCO 84, framing behind proscenium panels at the proscenium in the gym Again, this, the RFI that they're citing as additional information requiring additional work essentially just clarified information that was already included in the contract documents. And so the recommendation is to reject that additional cost. Now, generally or often, we do this behind the scenes without your action. So you can either choose to act on these formally at the meeting or just let them go, and we will deal with them at the owners meeting and just say we're not accepting these.
I think that'd be a better way to do it.
Okay.
What are you saying? Reject them formally or do it at the owners
No.
meeting?
Just let it go through the owners meeting and talk about it there.
Yep, okay.
Generally, when we do this, we do give Rizzo the opportunity to, I mean, if they want it presented at a building committee meeting, we will present it. But a lot of these RFIs, we just reject during the owners meeting and wait for them to
See what the response. Yeah, I
So
think we'll try.
the only other thing that we still have pending here at Johnson is this electrical feeders issue. Now, it is an issue at both schools, but at Johnson, it's a much higher magnitude of a change order, 125.5. This started to be discussed at one point and then was tabled. There was some conversation with Jim at Rizzo that it might be renegotiated. I don't have any update on that and whether that's really true or going anywhere. You should also know, though, that the time is long past for this work to be reimbursable in a state change order because this work was done over the holidays last year. What I'd like to have the commission do is just make a decision on what to do with this. Either approve it and pay it out of owner's contingency, understanding that it's not reimbursable, push it back to the contractor so they can pay out of their contingency. I think we should probably take it off the table at this point.
I would agree we have to deal with it. I'm in favor of rejecting it. So I will make a motion so we can discuss. I make a motion that on Johnson School, we reject PCO number 4 for the electrical feeders in the amount of $125,564.40.
So does anybody need a recap on what this really is about?
Well, first of all, we have to have a second or else.
I'll second it for discussion.
Yeah.
So now we can get into discussion and et cetera.
I have a question. Hey, Jim,
Yes, sir.
on this, you've taken it back to Ferguson. Is this as far as you can go price-wise on this?
No, he's got room there. He had knocked off about 10, and then he realized he was bidding against himself here because I wasn't really counter him with anything. I don't know where you guys are at as far as what you think a settlement would be worth putting out to him, but that's about as far as we got with him on that.
What's your feeling of what would settle this dollar-wise?
That's a fair question, Roy, and I a month ago I probably had a better feel for it. If you can let me give that thought, I think I can certainly get a feel for where I think he is at. It might not be where you want to be anyway, but I don't shoot from the hip for you.
I'd appreciate you looking at it that way. In one sense, I'd like to get this cleared off our table here, but I don't like the whole idea of it. But let's know what the number is going to be, and
Okay.
we can make better.
I can do that and get back to Geraldine on that.
I think that'd be great. Thank you.
So if we were to reject this number, would there be the opportunity, and I guess from what Jim just said, to come back with another number? Or what?
Well, what I was trying to do, Nancy, is try to get a little closer to what that number might be. And, I hate to be kind of negotiating against ourselves right here now, but I think Jim could probably get us as close as he could get, what his educated guess would be. And then we could take it from there.
So then,
Continue to table it for another meeting.
so then, yeah, so if we're gonna look at more numbers, we don't want to go ahead and reject it right now. So I
Correct.
then withdraw my motion.
Okay. I'll withdraw my second, I guess.
All right, that was all the action we needed at Johnson. At Rockwell, however, we have a few more PCOs that we want to look at, of course. Maybe here we would start with the electrical feeders. Again, this has been on the list for a while, but at Rockwell, the amount is only $23,770. I guess the question to Jim might be similar. Is this a final number, or do you think there's room in this number as well?
I looked at it as all one package, Carolyn, so
Okay.
I think that it's the same, whatever logic we're gonna be able to use on them at the other would be used here as well.
Okay.
Okay, I think that's a good idea.
Thank you, Jim.
All right, so PCO is recommended for approval. So PCO 76 at Rockwell is for the concrete demolition and the temporary shoring for the 2 columns that are being installed in the kindergarten rooms. So this number of $6,506.96 is not for the columns themselves. We don't have that number yet, but this is for the temporary shoring and also all the demolition that they did of the existing concrete. And we are recommending that this be approved. So let's see if I can find it.
Yep, you were just there.
It's 70, it's up.
Right
yeah.
next to the Johnson 76.
Yeah, the one that I tried earlier. So again, installation of temporary shoring, this is number 76.
So I'll make a motion that we approve proposed change order number 76 for Rockwell School in the amount of $6,506.96 for the temporary shoring and demolition of the slab for dealing with the beam deflection. That's just
Okay.
part of it. So we still have steel that has to be put in there, and that's going to be another cost.
Right, we would have liked it to be all together, but in an effort to move things along, we're asking for an approval of the numbers we do know.
I'll second that, Nancy.
Okay, any other discussion on this?
Well, I hate to be a pain, but when we took that wall out, why wasn't that kind of figured in?
Good question.
The wall, it wasn't a bearing wall, but it was providing some support that wouldn't have been accounted for in structural calculations.
I don't know. Okay. It just kind of sits funny with me, that's all.
Understandable.
I agree, Bob.
But it's got to get done.
Yep.
Yeah.
So-
When is it going to get done?
Oh, that's another question. Yeah, I mean, Ken, what's the status of getting the new columns in there?
So this is a QSR item. We
Yes.
get another price from another steel fabricator to come in there and do it. I would love to jump on that. It's not easy to do that payment wise, but we do have somebody else who's ready to go. It's, it's another thing that we're fighting through now with QSR.
Okay.
So is the demo and the temporary shoring has been done?
Yes, yeah, we've got it covered. Now what needs to happen is that needs to come down. There's some work that needs to be removed around it, ceiling grid, light fixtures, diffusers, so that you can get in there and weld and put the column in.
Okay, then. Any other questions on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Not very loud, but yeah.
Well, it's a.
I know.
Aye.
It's just another one of those that
Yep.
just keeps cropping up.
Yep. Anybody opposed?
I'm
Okay.
close.
Yeah, we all are. Okay, done.
So this is the big one. PCO 77
Holy shit.
is for all of the, it's for all of the PCB, all of the wall demolition at Rockwell, as described to me at one point, miscellaneous wall demolition, but involving abatement and demo, obviously, because of the PCB paint on the walls. I will admit that when this PCO first came in, I also fell off my chair because of the dollar amount and because I had been led to believe it was not going to be, that it was, you know, miscellaneous wall demolition. But it is an accounting of all of the wall demolition that was subject to abatement. It was done on a time and materials basis for May, June, July, and August. And I did have an opportunity to look at all the tickets. I don't have any, I can't find anything to argue with other than it was a horrendous, you know, amount of time needed to take care of the PCB wall demolition.
And wasn't this not just like tearing a whole wall down, but it was occasional hole here, hole there to get?
Penetrations and, you know, where walls were removed and then other walls had to come in, you know, meet with other walls. It is everything through the first floor that had to be done, as I said, for the last 4 months.
Wasn't this also part, excuse me, wasn't this also part of when they had to reroute those pipes? And they went through the walls of the gym and the closet?
It had a lot to do with the slabs too, the containments for all the slabs that we tore up.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And another question, why was it T&M? Why couldn't a contract price come up?
I agree with Bob. That's what I was about to ask.
There was no way to quantify it, Bob. And you know, what you have to remember too is once what would happen is the floor comes up, then they test the areas. We're now trying to finish these areas. So it's not as if you could expose all of the floors, quantify what your total is, and then go out and get you know, lump sum pricing from people to do that. So that was not a possible thing to do. The best way to try to control these costs and remember that we're trying to open a school was to do it on T&M.
Okay.
And it did have, because it was kind of changing with like when we had to change where all those pipes were going to be going through, et cetera. So if we had known, I think from the beginning, which is why we did a lot of testing in the beginning, where we got some good information, but we didn't get all the information we needed as to where PCBs were and where, you know, holes were gonna, it's like every time they had to drill a hole in the wall, they had to do a whole containment thing. So if they were running a pipe down through a series of walls, they had to drill one hole in each wall. Containment had to be done and all those. I just remember having this discussion a while ago.
No, we did. You're right. But my question is, why is it 4 months worth of bills and not like broken out to each month? Was there a reason for that?
Yes, so that was my first thought. Ideally, we would have had, you know, smaller totals, but they would have totaled up to this amount, I think, at the end of the day.
No, I agree. I'm not arguing that fact, Geraldine, whatsoever. It's just that it could have been brought to us as it went along. That's all.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I'm not. I was just curious. That's all. It just it strikes me as odd that you're gonna hold 4 months worth of bills and not want to get paid.
I agree.
But is this something that can be, is this, and I think this is in your other spreadsheet that you're going to try to get some, get it to be added into the project to be reimbursed?
Yes, this is part of that $950,000 that we have definitely identified as abatement costs that we're going to ask for the increase on.
Well, be prepared to answer the question, why wasn't TM? I'm sure the state's going to want to know that.
Actually, the state likes T&M because then they do see a record of the actual labor hours, the labor cost, and any materials are documented. Some of the problem we have with rejected or with PCOs that we've presented to the state that they've rejected that we have to go back again and deal with have to do with not enough detail. And the time and material stuff definitely works for the state.
Okay. You know better.
Yeah. I mean, if we had known that, I think that if the contractors had known at the beginning of the project that every wall was going to be assumed to be PCV paint, we would have seen a higher cost at the beginning, but we wouldn't have seen as many PCOs going forward because they would have factored that in and it would have been part of a lump sum. But because we didn't present this information to them until they were well underway, I think that this is the best way to approach accounting for the cost of the work.
All right, so we can discuss it more, but I'll make a change or motion first. So I make a motion that we approve change order number 77 for Rockwell School in the amount of $146,819.93 for various PCB demolition work performed at
I'll
multiple locations.
second that.
Roy seconds. So more discussion or questions?
I will reluctantly agree.
I think it does seem like a huge amount, and I think Geraldine's right. Both not just the walls, but a lot of the floors and slabs that had to be dealt with, etc.
I'm not doubting the work wasn't done. It's just like
It's a lot of money.
well, why'd you wait freaking 5 months to collect?
Yep.
Well, I think that's the way it was set up with them.
I guess. All right. I'm sorry. I just get frustrated.
Well, it is frustrating because we're watching, especially at Rockwell, money going down, 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 and a whole lot of other people standing with their hands out, and we're trying to do what's best for our schools and also for the taxpayers of the town of Bethel. So, anything else? Can we vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? That one's done. I'm surprised, but it's done.
And actually, I am very hopeful, actually, that is the last of the abatement work. So
That would be a godsend, Gerald.
I'm hopeful. I'm not
I got,
positive, but I'm hopeful.
I got one more that it's for the carpet replacement in the admin where we had the admin in that other room across the hall. It's for the carpet tile that we had to.
Oh, at Rockwell, where we had to pull up the floor in order to go
Yeah.
back in and do the work.
It's not a major cost. It's just there is cost from the flooring guy.
Yeah.
I gotta ask, what's not major to you, Ken?
5,000.
I'm sorry, Ken. I'm getting punchy. It's getting late. I'm sorry.
5,000 isn't major. So.
Well, except we'll look at that though, because in my mind, I'll pay you for the labor, but take the carpet out of attic stock and leave Bob less attic stock. Well, we'll talk about it.
Exactly. Thank you, Geraldine.
So PCO 79, this is for, so at Rockwell, a decision was made, the decision actually was made quite a while ago, but the work was just, since it's finished work, it's flooring work, is just ready to be done. 2 rooms, I think Christine, she's not on the line, she's not on anymore, is she?
No.
There was a request that she approved, Joe, right? There was a request that she approved to change a couple of rooms from hard VCT floor to carpet.
Yes. Yeah, it was the I think it's PLC team rooms.
Team room,
We had-
team room.
We had it as VCT and then.
And they wanted it to be more plushy carpet. So this is the cost to the upcharge on the carpet versus the VCT for these 2 rooms, $1,398.77.
So I'll make a motion that we approve proposed change order number 79 for Rockwell School. Changes in flooring finishes at $1,398.77.
Second.
Dave Olson seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Done. Next.
And power circuits.
Oh,
No, that's not it. Sorry. Didn't mean to like, here it is, 80. So this one, Joe, do you have, we are recommending that this be approved, but do you have any more detail that because I really don't, on what this is?
Let me look back.
So apparently there was either some missing information or a change in the power requirements to hot water pumps that was asked in an RFI. I just don't know whether this is something that was changed or omitted or.
that,
I know DTC reviewed it and they said the costs were appropriate. I'm just trying
Yeah, let me see if I can, circuitry revisions to hot water pumps 1, 2, and 3 to 3-phase. Oh, this was one where,
they,
yeah, the panels, the circuits were for 120 volt single phase, but the pumps required 208 volt 3-phase.
How did they miss that?
yeah, I'm Bob.
Gonna say, what?
Yeah, I don't have an explanation for it, so
No.
I'd have to get it from DTC.
Hell no. Hell no. Mm-mm. There is no commercial application where you have circulator pumps that are not 3-phase. No.
I agree.
So, so the objection is to why it was a change. Understand? I guess that's my question.
Yeah.
Because we know that we needed the 3-phase circuits, and so if they weren't indicated, or they weren't, I mean, I don't know. Are we looking for Joe to tell us whether that's a drawing omission or a drawing coordination issue or what?
You got to find out what was on the original drawings.
Yeah, and quite honestly, if that was missed by the engineer, I'll refrain.
All right, we'll withdraw this one and
Get more information.
additional information on what caused the need for the change.
Thank you, Geraldine.
Yep. So at Rockwell, we also have a couple of PCOs that we would reject based on design team review, much like we just did at Johnson. And I will assume that you want us, that you will not act on them, that we will just reject them during an owner's meeting. Both of them have to do with framing infills. Verdi wants more money for, because in my mind, they misinterpreted the drawings. So they're looking for more money to fill in areas above window assemblies at the cafeteria and the gym. But in the opinion of the design team, this information was included in the contract documents, and any SKs or RFIs that were answered were just to clarify, not to add additional materials. So we would reject these two PCOs.
Yeah, we respectfully disagree. If the details were issued as a sketch after the bid, they were never included in the contract documents. Can't leave a blank space above doorways and expect someone to know what your intent was. And I think that's the word we're talking, intent. And then that's not how contractors bid the work.
Yes, and we feel that we don't issue shop drawings for every single condition in the building, and that the work is shown in plan and elevation, and in some cases sections, but not necessarily details, that the contractors own all the documents, not just the details. So where there's an exterior wall, obviously there's framing behind it. So they're looking to get paid for framing that's design intent. This ought to be something holding up the exterior wall materials.
Guess you got masons, you got owners, so there's,
So then give us a credit for CMU, Ken.
you didn't show anything. So I guess it would be hard for me to do that, but
But if what Joe's saying is that in different sections and elevations, it was shown, it would, I'm guessing, Joe, this question, if you're showing it in sections and elevations in certain areas, it would be considered to be with throughout the job.
Mm-hmm. That exterior wall is
Respectfully,
typical throughout.
We don't want to argue and waste your time, but
Right.
this is something we would put you on notice that we're going to claim this because this has piled up the intent issue of completing details is piled up, and again, I don't want to waste your time arguing going over this.
So I think this will be another one where it'll get taken care of in a meeting, owners meeting. Carolyn,
Yes.
thank you.
So the other two PCOs that we had here for Rockwell were the two options for the duct supports. So we know from an earlier discussion that option 2 is no longer on the table, and that option 1 to replace and the duct supports with the better one, the one that's on the lower roof, is the direction that Rizzo is taking. That change order is worth $146,423. So, and so they are proceeding with that work. So I think that is a change order that we need to also approve, well, discuss at least how we're going to approach that.
Carolyn, how much of this fell underneath the roofing contractor's insurance claim, if any?
None of this did.
Okay.
Their insurance claim is just dealing with the repair of the duct work that was damaged during their installation work.
Okay, thank you.
So,
Go ahead, Nancy.
well, my I guess question to start, we talked about this a whole lot earlier on. Is this a bottom line price, or are we looking at, I mean, there is a note in there pending design team review, but we've already gotten through that. And as Geraldine said, there's the option 1 is the direction that Rizzo is now having the roofers go forward with. Is this the bottom? I know that there's a thing in there from young developers, right?
So yeah, because there's roofing work, there's, and then I think what Ken said is that the Action Air pieces, the Action Air labor will be time and materials, but they estimated it at $87,500.
So this could be a not to exceed amount.
Well, I think what Jim said earlier is that, yes, they thought that this was the conservative high estimate and that their labor should be less.
And this is an option that's going to keep the ducts from flying off the roof and keep the roof from leaking.
yeah,
And there's a 20-year warranty.
There's a 20-year warranty that the ducts aren't going to fly off the roof.
No leaking, sorry.
No leaking. How do we do this as an amount not to exceed if Action Air is going to do it on time and material?
Yeah.
and get a credit for any part that's not.
Well, one suggestion would be to break it up, obviously. Have them represent a PCO that is the lump sum from the roofer and the lump sum for the materials that Actionary has to purchase, the duct support materials. And with the understanding that there's going to be a second PCO when we have a tabulation of all the time and materials. And the understanding is that that tabulation best be at or under 87,005.
So question,
Yep, go ahead.
the original supports weren't to spec, correct?
I didn't hear that. I'm sorry, Dave.
The original duct supports were not to spec, is that
No,
correct?
the original duct supports are per the mechanical drawing detail.
Okay, so these are in addition to.
Correct.
Is there any part of this that, so still wrapping my head around this.
You and me both, my friend.
Yeah. The reason for the additional supports came about after the roofers took the ducts apart and effed them all up.
No, it's the upper roof of Rockwell, which sequence was always to put equipment, put ductwork, and then put a roof underneath it. That's where those, because it was so early, that's where those detailed duct supports were installed.
And that's where I'm I can't wrap my head around the coordination on that. What, to this day, I'm sorry, and I'm gonna beat my head to the desk on this one. How do you put duct support and duct on a roof that's gonna be replaced? I'm sorry, I can't fathom that.
Did it have to do with the sequencing of how things were supposed to be going as far as getting HVAC in place for
Yes,
school to get?
yes, Nancy, that stems back to the original phasing of the job where you were completing the lower levels and that office space, and that was all being fed by equipment up on the roof. So yes.
But then shouldn't those supports and ductwork have been deemed temporary and not permanent?
At the point that they were, David, they were, because they were put on sleepers on the existing roof.
Okay, so to that point, Ken, if they were deemed temporary, did we pay for a full, I'm trying to word it properly. So like are we paying for the installation twice? Like the first time, if it's temporary, generally it's like half the price because we know it's going to be removed. It's scrap. We're going to throw it out and we're going to do it again.
So when they had installed these duct supports on the sleepers, when they came and they roofed, they then installed them in the permanent roof.
Okay. Thank you, Ken.
So what are we thinking here? Do we want to get something that's broken out as Geraldine suggested so we can?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that makes the most sense.
Yeah, okay. So can we do that?
Yeah.
Ken and Jim? Okay.
Yep.
All right. Thank you.
So do you want to wait for the formal proposal?
Could we compare them? Because I'm just curious if they're going to come back with a time and material again for the Actionair, or if they're going to give like a contract price.
You mean for the
I'd like to understand what their thought process is on that. That's all I'm asking.
David, on the Actionair, I think the time and material is the way to go, only because if we ask them to quantify it, that's, I think that number's going to be too high. I don't think they're going to have the, we saw how they went through the repairs. We saw how they went through certain things. So I think the way to do it is the way Geraldine is proposing is let's have them proceed on T&M and let that unfold. But I don't see that being advantageous to us to try to nail him down to something now because, he may be taking on or assuming risks that he's not going to have to deal with.
I'm not going to argue with you on that, Ken, at all. I am just thinking that we might go back to people and explain what we did. So my only thing is maybe do we have them give us a contract and say, this is the reason why we went with the T&M? I'm just spitballing right now. We're getting very, very close on the budget. And when people start asking questions, I think we should be able to say, well, we asked for this. This is what they gave us. And that's why we went with this. That's all.
We could do that.
I'm not trying to be difficult right now. I'm really not.
I understand now what you're asking. We can do that.
Okay.
So, but David, are you looking at, like, we're going to approve an amount not to exceed just for the labor for Actionair?
Yes.
Okay.
That's in my mind. Yes. I'll leave that up to others.
But so then how do we, if we just take the, do we approve each amount separately? I'm trying to figure out how to,
I'm trying to figure that out right now, Nancy, so I don't make this overly difficult on everybody.
Right, because the hard part is,
I
Gerald,
would say instead of approving a PCO, which I think commits you to this change in contract, would you be willing to make a motion and approve an action by the commission that accepts the two lump sum amounts with the understanding that the final PCO will be those two lump sum amounts from Young Developers and the Actionair Materials, plus a tabulated time and materials cost for the labor, and then postpone actually approving the PCO amount until all those numbers are tabulated, but giving Rizzo some assurance that they can proceed with the work today because in kind of in spirit, you're approving part of it.
right.
I don't know if you do that, but
I don't know, Roy, what do you think? John?
I'm thinking that, I mean, we're looking at, three amounts: Young Developers, Actionair Materials, Actionair Labor. But then we have the, percent.
Yeah, but I don't understand why we can't just approve the PCO as it stands, except for the Actionair labor part to be formed on T&M.
What John said. Kathy, write it down.
I did the math.
Right.
That amount would be $54,544.35.
Well, but I think what John said was
We
approving.
don't even have to get into numbers. We're going to approve.
Yeah.
We're going to approve the PCO for the amount of Young Developers and Actionair's material. And Actionair's labor is going to be on a T&M basis. And we can actually put not to exceed $87,504.
Yeah,
Right?
I agree.
I have a question about Young Developers' costs there. It says that they're going to cap the roof where the existing duct support curbs are. Is that my understanding?
John.
We're leaving the duct supports. They were just gonna go over the top of, that's what they're calling caps, the top of the supports that are there.
Right, but they already owe us that per their submittal, and the roofing submittal shows those curves with roof over it already. So why is there a charge for that?
He didn't own that detail. He submitted that detail, but he didn't own that. That was the detail on the mechanical drawings.
Ken, the submittal is part of the contract documents.
And
the roofing manufacturer will not warranty the roof without their manufacturer's details being followed. So I don't understand why there's a charge to cap something that is part of the submittal.
He didn't own those supports though. He submitted a generic detail for supports and
It wasn't crossed out. It wasn't marked up by them. It wasn't marked up by you either, that it wasn't part of the submittal. I'm
You
just,
did have to flash in the curbs supplied by the mechanical contractor, so that's why he carried that specific detail, so that they're showing you how they're going to flash that detail, that support into the roof.
but they didn't do it that way.
He didn't own this. He didn't. He didn't.
Was that excluded in his scope of work? And I'd like to talk about this offline too, because I disagree with that amount.
So what, Joe, what you're saying is that not just the amount, but what they're describing is something that either that should already have been part of their contract.
Yes.
All right, I want to withdraw this one too, and let's look at this in more detail, because I think it is important to understand not just what the roofing contractor owns, but what the construction side owns on this issue.
Agreed.
All right. We'll come back to you in 2 weeks with more information, more definitive recommendation on what to do with this.
Okay,
Thank you, Geraldine.
thanks.
That is it for PCOs today. So
How about the TCO for the field over to Johnson?
Oh, the alternative 8?
Yes.
Well, let's see. I don't have that up here, and I did not. Let me see if I can find it.
Can I make a motion? We get Rich better Wi-Fi at his house?
Yes.
It's been ongoing since the shutdown,
I mean,
so.
for God's sakes, you're a selectman, Rich. Come on.
Hey, I can't afford it.
Don't you come asking for a pay raise, pal.
I think he's been visited by every IT person in the universe, and they haven't been able to fix it.
You need aluminum foil on the rabbit ears.
You got to put aluminum foil on your head.
It's already gold there.
So it's alternative 8, so we must have something somewhere.
I do have it. I'm trying to bring it up right now.
Looking for it, probably in the shared drive.
I don't think I ever put it in the shared drive. That's why I'm grabbing it now. Okay. Where am I sharing again? Let's see. Share my screen, share my screen. All right, it is here. All right, it is work associated with alternate 8. Same drawings that were issued in 2018, expansion and reseeding in the athletic field, site grading, the retaining wall, and tree clearing. And with markup total $39,637.50. And let's see what we have here. It is virtually a lump sum proposal with the original drawing, which of course is sideways, but you get the point. We expanded in this direction and added a retaining wall back here.
So
We're going to try to take that out.
Yeah, so since you have asked Dan to look at that again, we might need a revised PCO amount as well.
That's
Yeah.
what I was gonna ask, if these plans are complete or whether they need to be updated.
Well, we can do it not to exceed, and then we could look at it with the revised plans.
But if the not to exceed,
Yeah, I know, it's gonna change some.
change up or down, so change.
Down. I would expect it to change down.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just to get rid of the dirt pile?
No, this is
No.
to do the additional work.
Longer for a runoff area. That was an original proposal that's why it was an alternate 8 on the original drawings, John.
Oh, okay.
And Dr. Carver would have liked to have it done if there was money to do it, and apparently there is money to do it. So it's going to make that field better for the school use and also for the town use.
All right, so we gotta go back to the amount. Actually, I have it written down here somewhere. Or round it out. So if I'm gonna make a motion. And make a
Yeah.
motion, yeah, make a motion that we approve proposed change order number 79 for Johnson Elementary School, accepting all work associated with alternate 8 in an amount not to exceed $39,637.50. Does that sound like a good motion?
I'll
Yeah.
second that.
Is that Roy?
Yes.
Okay, so we have other discussion of this?
Yeah, I tend to agree. I'm not too sure how to handle it since the plans could change slightly. You know,
So-
it's just,
If the plans are gonna change slightly, is that gonna be a different cost? Because this is the cost to do the work. If we have to change the plans, is there a cost to change the plans?
well, it's just basically the removal of the wall. So, you know, but you know, we won't know until it comes back. I mean, they might say that we got to cut 20 trees, and the trees are going to be more expensive than the wall. And then we'll just say, well, just do what we planned for. So, you know, it's hard to tell, Nancy, as far as, you know, without getting that estimate back.
Well, but we're in a position right now where they kind of have to do the work now while they're doing, it's like, I don't know if we can wait 2 weeks.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I'd like to move it along, but I think we're also waiting for, you know, hopefully it'll save us some money to remove the wall.
How big is the field under?
Plan review. Nancy, you can add to the motion pending, you know, plan reviews or plan, you know, revisions or something.
Yeah,
Okay, so I'll add that to the motion. Thank you, Kathy.
good idea, Kathy.
Look at that.
Pending plan review and revision.
Yep.
Kathy just wants to get moving along so she can go to sleep like the rest of us need to.
We all do, not just Kathy.
I know, me too.
Yeah.
All right, so add that in and can we vote now?
Yep.
All in
One
favor?
more question,
Right,
Nancy.
Dave Olson.
How big is the field under alternate 8?
It's 200 feet, I believe, Dave. It's the existing field. And they're just adding a runoff area onto the side.
Yeah, 200 by 140.
And that'll make it a regulation field we can have games on.
Yeah.
With SCS,
Or what's
whatever. That'll be a field that could have multiple use. Park and Rec can use it and we can use it.
Will we generate any money off it, Bob?
Well,
It's
once
way
we make it a
under-
regulation field, yeah.
It's way undersized for a soccer field.
No, but with that runoff area, it puts you in a regulation size field. You have to have so much distance to slow an athlete down.
Okay. All right, we're ready to vote.
Yeah,
Dave, has more questions? No? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Only been a year.
In your meeting tomorrow, you can tell Matt you got something accomplished.
And with that, I'm gonna say goodnight. Good night.
Rich.
Yeah, sure.
Rich.
Thanks. Leave the rest of us. All right, so next on the little bullets on the agenda is the Rockwell boiler room floor. And John Menti is working in New Jersey. I told him he could call in from New Jersey. It's not like it's a foreign country, but he did send me a quick email saying that he was in touch with Malcolm Beeler from Weston and Sampson, asking for an update. And he said he's been working on the plan and we'll have a copy of the remedial action plan for us to review at our next meeting on October 27. And then after that, he'll start the submittal process with the state and I guess he has to do the feds too. So that's where we are with that. So next meeting, we should have, it sounds like a completed plan to be able to review.
Just for the record, we're on hold for painting that floor, correct?
I believe so.
Okay,
I think that that plan that they're going to come up with is going to give direction to what the next steps are.
okay.
That's my understanding. I don't know if anybody else was.
That's also my understanding, Nancy.
Yeah.
Mine too.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you have to hold off on that for now until they say, if there's some kind of coating or painting that can be done. I think it has to be whatever's in the, what's approved of or specified in the plan.
It goes for the stairs as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. And then the next one down on our bullets is professional services, additional requests. So we have, let me get my stuff out here. Two basically still on the table that we've been considering. One from IES for both schools and one from Perkins Eastman for both schools.
Nancy, I have updated numbers through September now. I
Great.
didn't get to send out. So based off where we would have been per the proposal for Rockwell, we are tracking at only 43,600 versus 86,000. And at Johnson, we're tracking at 77.5 versus 129. So we're roughly 40.
So Rockwell, you said 43.6?
43.6, yeah, estimated with my calculations.
So is that at completion or is that to date?
That's through September 30th.
And that's Rockwell.
Yeah. And
43.6 as opposed to
86.1.
okay, and Johnson was 77.5 as opposed to 129.
3.
Okay. So thanks for that input. That's helpful. We've been continuing to discuss, and I've gotten some, I guess I'd have to say, input and pushback from the person who would be signing. We could approve this, but it's still got to get signed by the first selectman. So
Okay.
when I said to you about our bean counters, kind of keeping an eye on, part of the process is helping them understand or helping him understand kind of where we are with this and how we got here.
Okay.
And, so that's kind of continuing. And then the other part that's come up, and I know we got a lot of questions answered by you, Joe, and Joe Costa when we met, in looking at, I guess what came up in my mind, a couple of conversations I had with a couple different people, in looking at it from a viewpoint of looking at it as a change order, so to speak. so that it's something that can be sort of justified and quantified.
More
Okay.
specific. Yeah, I think more specific, such as the entryway over at Johnson or the columns at Rockwell, Joe. I think it's easier for us to accept them more as separate items because they were very specific and they clearly could show that, you know, that you did spend time on.
Right.
So that seemed to make, you know, those, or like the bump outs at Rockwell.
Yeah.
You know,
There's items that clearly we recognize there, you know, there was much more coordination and much more effort taken there. So I think those are not the issue. It's just kind of a, you know, you know, if you keep tracking the other part like you're doing, I think that's great. We could look at that on the big part at the end, but I really do think as we go forward, or what you've had to date on some of these, where you can quantify it directly to items which we've seen, we know, you know, I think that would make it easier for us to accept.
Okay. So you want are you asking for a different breakdown then? Of,
Yeah, I think so, Joe.
All right.
Kind of more specific, okay?
Okay.
well, yeah, and it was something I suppose we could get together and discuss, try to figure out a
Yeah.
way, because I'm continuing to look at, you know, what we were looking at earlier with Geraldine's cost comparisons, et cetera, and that, you know, are there some things that, can we quantify them in a way of being able to add them to the amount that we asked the state to approve for reimbursement? And I don't know. I don't know if that's a shot in the dark, and or one of the things that might be kind of on the list but rejected. It's difficult to say.
That would be more for the amount for Rockwell, right?
Yeah,
Reimbursement.
definitely.
But even Johnson, I mean, the entryway and the stuff like that, Joe, I mean, the extra stuff that's being done on those.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there's other items there that, you know, that we don't know about, or, you know, vaguely know about.
Okay.
Because I think in the discussions, you know, it's come up that there's environmental stuff, and then there's unforeseen circumstances, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
Yet the question was asked of me, why wouldn't someone with your knowledge and experience in older schools think of putting enough of a contingency in to cover that kind of stuff? Yet I also see with Rockwell how much more we found. So it's kind of a balancing act again, having to continue to justify, as I said, that, you know, when we take actions and make approvals, if it's not going to get signed by the person that has to sign it, we've got to help them understand.
Right.
Where we are.
Would it help if we spoke with the first selectman?
We might need to at some point.
Okay.
So, but I think I'm going to have to.
I think if we spoke again too, Joe, you know, with the subcommittee and yourself and Joe also, maybe we could come to a little better understanding also.
All right.
Yeah, I think that could be helpful, because like I said, I thought I was kind of going through some of the explanation with Matt, that made sense to me, and, you know, he wasn't quite getting there, and I wasn't going to continue with it right away, because I thought if I had more information, I could, you know, some numbers specifically, which I didn't have at the time that I was writing the email to him. Not that I don't have the numbers, I didn't have them with me. So yeah, and so another meeting I think could be helpful.
Okay.
We'll have to figure that out.
Okay.
So it's kind of ongoing, because there's a lot to consider.
Right. Okay, I'll talk to Joe. It won't be tomorrow because he's out of the office tomorrow, but
Yeah, and I think if the subcommittee is going to meet, it might have to be without me, depending on when you choose, which is fine. It could be Roy and John and Dave. Again,
We could put a conference call together.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
that would be good because I've got a lot going on the next couple of weeks.
All right, Roy, do you want to email me times that you guys are?
Yeah, I'm pretty good. Why don't you just check with Joe and let me
Okay.
check the committee, okay? So
All
see what, so maybe first part of next week or something,
All right.
or end of this week. I don't care.
Okay, that sounds like a good plan to continue to move forward with this.
Yep.
And then,
Okay.
thanks, Joe.
You're welcome.
And we have the IES. Proposals, which are pretty succinct. It's obvious that we had to ask them to do a lot of additional work and services, especially throughout the summer and trying to get things set with opening the schools. So I am going to, let me see. Hang on just a second. I got to find the right papers. Oh, I got them. So I'm going to make a motion that we approve the proposal from IES for extra commissioning service for Rockwell School. We'll do schools separately. Is that what you got? Oh, thank you, Geraldine. In the amount of $11,250 as spelled out in the proposal, which you all have copies of because it went out last time and it's been on the shared drive.
Okay.
Was that Roy?
Dave.
Dave, thank you. And do we have any discussion on this or questions?
Okay.
Everybody good?
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Done. I'll have to see about getting this. Again, Matt's going to want more explanation, but getting that taken care of. And then the other one, I'll make a motion that we approve the proposal from IES for extra commissioning services for Johnson School in the amount of $8,900.
Second.
A second from Dave. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That's done. I think now we're at, so then the subcommittee is going to meet on the Perkins Eastman proposals.
Yep.
Oh, applications for payment from Rizzo. Oh.
Oh, can't see the file. Oh, well.
I have the signed stamped copies.
Okay.
Yep, they got a raised seal on them. So let's do this. I will make a motion that we approve Rizzo application for payment for Johnson School, application number 00019. In the amount of $1,206,243.87.
Second.
Dave seconds. Any discussion, questions? And we always assume that they were all thoroughly checked out by Geraldine and her team because they've been signed and stamped.
That's correct.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Done. And here's Rockwell. Make a motion that we approve Rizzo application for payment number 00019 for Rockwell School in the amount of $788,004.02.
Second it.
Dave seconds. Any discussion, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Done. And Geraldine, earlier, or was it Ken or Jim who said earlier with these, that we're seeing that their construction contingency is,
Yeah, I said that. If you scroll all the way down to the end of the rec, there,
oh, so it's all there. You won't see it on the other page. Okay. So,
yes, on here, it's way down at the bottom here. Their amount remaining balance to finish, column H.
yep.
So for GMP contingency, this is Johnson, $400,033.39.
That's what remains or
Remains
in their contingency?
in their,
Got it.
Not
Okay.
just that's what's reporting.
Yes.
It's contractors have to bill out, when they bill out their change orders, then that amount goes down to the real number.
So is the real number lower?
Yeah, the real number is hovering around 7,000 or 8,000.
Ooh, okay.
wait,
Wait, what? The real number is 7,000 or 8,000. So you're talking 400 or $393,000 off of that?
Yeah, there's a little bit of monies that we had to pay for the roof repair that we haven't got reimbursed from the insurance company. In order to
yeah,
get
but see, this is
done.
where we need to distinguish between what's the real contingency balance and how you're using it as like a little petty cash fund to fund things that are flowing through. So what this document says is that you're still holding $400,000 of contingency. You know, these contingency numbers go up and down because of the way you're using it to pay change orders that have yet to be approved, or this, I don't understand, a reimbursement from insurance would imply that even though you're reducing your contingency to make a payment, you would be receiving something to balance that once the insurance payment is made, right?
Yes, that's
Yeah.
correct.
So yeah.
Could we get more realistic numbers by next week? Is that possible?
Next meeting? Or
Well,
Geraldine looks like, no, we can't.
yeah.
You can because it changes. They are not just drawing down on contingency as real costs are realized.
I completely understand that. I
Yeah.
do. I do. I just kind of got shocked by what Ken said, that's all.
Yeah, me too.
That's why I'm just, if we could get, I don't know.
So what do you want, David?
Not to have a headache in 5 minutes.
It would, I know. It would be nice to be able to see that, or
I don't understand why we can't, and I'm not blaming anyone. Please take it that way. I'm not blaming. I get this is public. I'm used to the private sector. I'm used to seeing real-time numbers all the time. That's a huge discrepancy. How do we not know that discrepancy now is my question. And I could be completely off base in asking that because it is, and this is the first time I've done this public stuff in a while. So maybe I'm wrong, but I don't, that's, when you're talking 300 something thousand dollars, that's a good sized number.
So there was a time when Ken had shared a spreadsheet, I think an internal spreadsheet that they're using to track money in and out of that contingency fund. maybe we can, I can, maybe if he can share that again, we can present it in a way that it can be understood by the commission, and you would at least see the detail of what's going in and out of that, that line item. Ken,
Yeah, I mean,
think that's possible?
It's going to look like a checkbook, plus, minus, plus, minus, plus. I get it.
Yeah, yeah, it's good. Yeah.
I get it, but you got to understand where I'm coming from too. Is you come in, you say, well, that number is not correct. Okay, great, that's fine. But when you're talking your $7,000-8,000 above board, as opposed to 400,000, that's a little bit of a shocker. That's all. That's all I'm saying. I'm not, like I said, I'm not throwing blame. Just could we get more real-time numbers? We ran into this with Perkins Eastman months and months and months ago, and it just seems to be like a recurring theme that we keep getting surprised. And I'm not throwing blame at anyone. I'm not. I'm just saying, why do we keep getting these surprises? And I could be completely off base, and please tell me if I am.
You're not completely off base, and we should be able to get from Rizzo more detail on what goes in and out of that contingency line item. And so let's do that for the next meeting.
Thank you very much.
Well, I mean, basically what you're asking, Dave, is are we going to see $390,000 worth of money coming back into the account?
Or are we going to see it going away? Yes. But I don't, if it's not there, that's fine. Show us why it's not there. If it's there, that's fine. Show us why we've gotten refunded or things have, gone either way. Like I say, I'll make it plain and simple. It's like your own personal checkbook. You get paid every couple of weeks, you throw money into it. You deduct money as you pay bills, and then you get refunded. I get it. That's how this works.
Is it? But is it though? Is it supposed to be how it works? Is money supposed to be going in and out? Where does the income from? Other than us paying the, making an application, they make an application for payment.
Right, but if we're not doing the whole month, or the whole amount, we're not deducting it because of we're saying we're not going to pay this amount, we're not going to pay that amount. That should stay in the account until it's deducted.
I just don't get the in part. Where does it come?
Well, I'm sorry, not in. It's not getting taken out, I should say.
Okay.
We're not approving the cost. We're not approving the spend, so it stays in the account.
But it's not anything about us for approving, because it's Rizzo's, it's the contract or the construction contingency, construction manager's contingency. So it's not, I guess a simple assumption would be if we chose not to approve change order X for $5,000 and it had to get paid, would it come out of that construction manager contingency? That's kind of a simple example.
Yeah.
I don't get the in and out part.
Well, and to your point, Nancy, this is Rockwell's requisition. And you'll see under the column for this period and the contingency line item, it is not a withdrawal, it's not a spend, it's an add back in of 76,000. So that the new balance here is 126, where last month, I think we saw 43 or something like that. That's the part that I think that in my mind is unusual, that money flows in and out. But so in my mind, even if it's at 7,000, that might not mean that that's all we have to work with, because there might be some money on the Johnson side coming in and out, whatever. So anyways, but we'll get more we should be seeing a contingency log anyways, an accounting of where all the construction contingency is going in any case. So we'll work on that for the next meeting.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
So I think we're up to invoices.
We are.
Fun. Just pick one. I've got Enviromed up.
Good, Enviromed. That's a good one, because again, this should be their final, they expect this is their final invoice. So this is for monitoring and testing at Rockwell in September.
And you would hope it's final, because if you're really going to go to the state with an amount, you would want to have all that in there.
That's right. That's why, yes, that's why we're going now. Yes.
Okay. So I make a motion that we approve Environment Services invoice number 19155 in the amount of $4,253.20.
Second.
Dave seconds. Any questions? All in favor? All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Opposed? Done. We got Meyer next.
Yep. Johnson.
Yep. So I make a motion that we approve William B. Meyer invoice number 220-015727 for Johnson School in the amount of $4,385.
Second.
Dave seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Done.
Aye.
The other Meyer. Make a motion that we approve invoice, William B. Meyer invoice number 220-015728 for Rockwell School in the amount of $6,951.75.
Second.
Dave seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Done. And you were saying, Carolyn, that these are the final move numbers?
Yes, so those were the final move numbers. And then just to reiterate, it means we're about $30,000 under budget on Johnson and about $14,000 under budget on Rockwell. And I would say that primarily that's due to the effort that the custodial team made in doing some of the interim moves over the summer. And so we didn't have to bring the movers back, or when we did bring them back, they didn't have to do as much work, because the custodians were schlepping things between the middle school and Johnson and Rockwell. They were disposing of things that we thought the movers were going to dispose of. So good job on the staff.
Good, thank you.
Yep. Okay, so I'll make a motion that we approve invoice from Special Testing Laboratories, invoice number 34548 in the amount of $2,117.50. No, that's not that one. Huh? Is there another one?
And I thought you did the right number. Yeah, 548.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I got it. So, all right. There's two of them.
Yes. This is Johnson.
Yep. Okay, I got it. For Johnson School in the amount of $3,951. Dave, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Done. So there's two. I thought there was all one. Sorry. So then I make a motion that we approve Special Testing Laboratories invoice for Rockwell School number 34549 in the amount of $2,117.50. Second. Dave seconds, Roy seconds, everybody seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Done. Next.
Technology invoices. Can we do Crown Castle first?
Okay. And is there only one and I have 3 pages?
So let me explain. This is a statement. If you recall, last month we looked at you approved an invoice that had a balance due amount on it. And when there was a question about what was that $25,000, this is it. Crown Castle lumped in the cost of providing fiber to Rockwell in the amount of $9,954. They listed it with all of the monthly costs that they have with the school district for providing fiber services. Terry is working on getting an invoice broken out for this amount. But in the meantime, she asked if you would please approve the amount so that when the invoice does come in, it can be paid quickly.
So was the invoice for the 9,000 or for the 25?
It's the 9. The
Okay,
invoice that would be going to the project, so to
got
go
it.
fiber to Rockwell is the 9,954, and everything else is a regular district cost that they pay monthly.
Right, because the statement is addressed to the Board of Ed and not to the project.
Correct, but she is going to get a separate invoice so that it can be properly documented at the finance department. It just hasn't come through, but they don't want to get behind on their billings.
So I make a motion that we approve Crown Castle amount that is in invoice number 661216 for Rockwell School in the amount as indicated for $9,954.
And you could even say pending receipt of the final invoice.
Pending receipt of the final invoice.
Second.
So am I going to give this to finance or are we waiting?
No, we're going to wait for the real invoice that's just for the construction cost to the project.
Okay. So we got a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Done.
All right, now all of these E+ invoices, how do you want to handle them? Because I did total them up for each school.
So how about if I make a motion and we'll do each school. So there's 4 for one school and 4 for the other school.
Yeah.
And I'll include each invoice number and then we'll have a total.
Okay.
So I make a motion that we approve the 4 invoices from E+ for, I'm looking at which school's on here. It's on here somewhere. Does it say anywhere which school it is?
Well, you know what, probably the only place it says is up on the client purchase order number. There's either a J or an R. Hard to see. I have them listed out. Do you want me to read them off?
I have the invoices. I just want to make sure I'm doing the right school.
All right.
So, where's the J or the R?
So do you see at the top right corner, it indicates client PO? Yeah.
So I have this one I think is for Johnson, so I can do the Rockwell one if that's what you have up.
Yeah, I have a Johnson one up, so.
Okay. All right, so I'll make a motion that we approve the 4 invoices from E+ for Johnson School. Invoice number V237285, V23756676, V23788018, and V23788047 for Johnson School in the amount of, what's the total?
$14,785.81.
Okay. And yep, all right. So I just have them in a different order. So I need a second now.
I'll second that.
And are those all the invoice numbers? Did I get them right, Carolyn?
Yes, you did.
So we got a second from Roy. All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Done. All right, and then Rockwell, we'll do the same thing. So I make a motion that we approve the 4 invoices from E+ for Rockwell School, invoices number V2373236, V2376255, V2378017, and V2378016 in the amount of
well, anyway, 13,110.20.
I need a second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Right.
Opposed? Done. So then I have a whole bunch from Insalco.
Yeah, but I only had 2 of them and so those were the only ones that we checked off against product delivered. So I'm gonna have to get copies of the other ones and deal with them later.
Okay, so
I have 9029 and 9061.
okay, so 9029 is Rockwell.
Yeah.
So I'll make a motion that we approve invoice number 9029 from Insalco in the amount of $7,159.56.
Second.
Got a second from Dave and Roy. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Done. So, and that's all furniture stuff.
Yeah.
9061. So I wonder if some of these others are ones we maybe already did. Or
Possible.
let's do that one and then I'll tell you whichever ones I have and you can tell me
Okay.
if you need me to get them to you or something. Let's see. Because they're all for Rockwell. So this one, the 9061. So I'll make a motion we approve Insalco invoice number 9061 for Johnson School in the amount of $310.90.
Second.
Roy seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Done. So the other ones I have are 9028, and it's pages and pages, and 9027, 9026, 9025. And they're all Rockwell. Oh no, one's Johnson. Didn't I email you this?
You could email me that. Let me look. So like if we look back to last month, or last meeting, we did 9011 and that's all. So maybe I don't even have those. Why don't I'm gonna need to get them.
Okay, so when are you meeting? How are you meeting with Christine?
I'm meeting with Christine in her office on Thursday at 11.
So I could leave them.
Yeah, if you could get them to her, to Sue or something, and I'll get them there.
Okay, well, we'll do that.
All right, but back to school specialties.
Yeah, I got a couple of them. And I don't know.
So I think that this one for $354.79 is the only outstanding one. This is the invoice for the flags that were delivered incorrectly, and we held this one back until we got the real American flags instead of the Swedish flags.
What are you gonna do with those Swedish flags? Anybody want some Swedish flags?
I don't know. I told Bob he should put them on eBay.
I'd like that.
No.
No, Dave wants them.
Yeah, got it talked about. I don't know I really don't even know what they did with it over at the school because the company didn't want them back.
So I'll make a motion that we approve the invoice from School Specialty, invoice number 208125284854 in the amount of $354.79.
Second.
Dave seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Done. So this other School Specialty one,
I'm fairly certain that we did approve the other 2 that were approved last meeting were the only other invoices from them.
okay. This is more of a statement rather than an invoice?
Yeah, I think that's what happened. Yes, because they billed this stuff way ahead of us even receiving them, and then, yeah. I think we're good with School Specialty.
So should I do something with this one? Give it back to Board of Ed or something or do we just?
Just toss it.
Okay. And then we have, oh, there's another school specialty one, which is, it's that one. All right, so that's a statement from them. I'll just attach that to that. It's an overdue,
Yeah,
even though they just sent us the wrong flags.
right.
And then WB Mason, do we have?
Yep. Yes, WB Mason. Now, I will say this about the WB Mason invoices. There are, so on the Johnson invoice, I had highlighted a couple of things that were on the punch list that may or may not be significant enough that you would want to withhold funds for them. It's up to you. We have a refrigerator that did not come with the ice maker that it was specified. They're aware, they're they're replacing that, they're gonna install that piece of equipment. We have file cabinets that had a door at the top. It's a four high file cabinet that had a door on the top instead of a file drawer, which they are replacing. And then we have yet to find the hood for the stove in the kind of life sciences area of the special ed area. So
do we want to approve it, then send it to finance to be held until the other items are delivered?
So yes, you could approve the entire amount and have the check held at finance until we resolve these things. You could approve the amount of, because it's significant, there's $69,000 worth of product that is acceptable and that's not subject to punch list. And then just withhold the $17,815 for the punch list items, or not approve it at all and wait for the punch list items to be resolved. Kind of up to you.
Okay, so what I'm gonna highlight too, because I have the originals here. What were the other two? Was the fridge you said, or what did you say was 15,000? The file?
The files, there's $15,000 worth of files. Yep. There's a $2,000 refrigerator with no ice maker, although they have the refrigerator. And the hood, and a $720 hood.
Yep, that I got.
Yeah. So.
What do you think? What should we do here, folks, as the hour grows later?
My recommendation would be to approve payment of the $69,051. So at least they get the most of their money, and then have finance withhold $17,815 pending completion of the punch list items.
I second that.
Yeah, I agree with Geraldine.
Agreed.
So I'll make a motion that we approve the WB Mason invoice number 2139-19811 in the amount of $69,000.51, withholding the $17,815, which I'll write on the invoice, until those items are either delivered or repaired, if that's what needs to happen. Dave seconds. Dave seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Done.
We wouldn't normally recommend that on small punch list items. In fact, we have on some of the furniture items, some small things that they're resolving, but I thought that those amounts were big enough that it merited attention.
So are there any on the Rockwell one, or is it all?
So
Good.
there also is a refrigerator for which the ice maker was not delivered, but I'm not recommending that you withhold on this one just to make the accounting clean.
Okay.
So, and they'll get the picture from the other invoice.
Yep. I make a motion that we approve WB Mason invoice number 2139-19781 for Rockwell School in the amount of $52,370.
Second.
Second from Roy, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Done.
Done.
So I have other invoices, but you said we have to wait on those because you didn't
I didn't get them. Yeah, and I don't know why. I usually get, I didn't even get my own STV invoices. Usually they copy me. So you said you have STV and you have IES?
They have IES or they're both originals.
Yeah.
Well, the STV ones, I guess, might be originals too, because they have folds in them. And I do not have usually, don't we get a Perkins Eastman one too?
Yeah, so we would be, that's what I looked back. We do typically at the first meeting in the month do professional services. So yeah, there would be a Perkins Eastman, but I didn't get those and.
I don't have the Perkins Eastman one.
All right.
So I guess we'll have to do the next meeting. So I'll save.
But I'm gonna need to get copies of the IES and the STV ones. So if.
Okay, I can. So you don't have any even like electronic ones. So I need to
No,
make.
and usually I do get them electronically. So I don't know if everybody forgot this month or what happened.
Or did we get them earlier than usual and they're somewhere? You don't, you would have.
Yeah, I checked all through my email because I, usually, so. But yeah, they'll have to wait until next meeting anyways.
I'll make copies for you.
Thank you.
I think that's it. For this part. Anybody have anything other school stuff that we need to deal with? Or are you tired?
So,
So, school project stuff done. We have some subcommittees that are going to have to meet. And I'm thinking the other subcommittee of David and Bob and Roy and whoever else is supposed to be a part of that, doing the walkthroughs on a regular basis. It's going to be important because I'm not seeing a lot of stuff.
Yeah, so Bob's not gonna be walking for a couple of weeks. How do we supplement Bob?
Well.
Anyone want to volunteer?
Well, somebody has to have access to the space.
Every time we've gone, it's been pretty well opened up. We haven't had to use keys, so that could change, obviously, as the schools get.
You might need to, so you might be able to arrange it through Bob and just let, make sure that, like, depending on what time you go, you work it out with the principals that they know you're going to be wandering around the building.
All right, we could probably work it out with Christine or somebody,
Yeah.
sure.
Yep, definitely.
Okay. Yeah, I don't want to bother Bob. He's got enough on his plate right now.
Okay.
Rory, you and I can talk about that offline.
Yep. That'd be good.
Okay, so done with school stuff. We have just a little update on police station. But do any of the other school team have anything they need to give us, tell us, bring up?
No, we're set.
Nighty night, everyone.
All right.
Thanks.
Set. Night, everybody.
Thanks.
Good night.
Go.
Thank you. Thank you. So, two things on the police station. There were some emails back and forth with Chris Baldwin and Downs in working on getting the CO, which I forgot to ask for another update on today because I was busy. But Chris had a list that he had given down saying, here are some outstanding items that were on, kind of Chris's radar a whole year or more ago. And then Downs answered saying, which ones, all the different ones that have been completed, in that way seeming that the ball's back in Chris's court. So what's his decision? But I didn't get that specific update from him. And then the firing range, the report that's being done by our own independent, town hired engineer is pretty much in the works. So when I walked out there with, it was pretty much me and Durkin, Chief Pugner for a little while, went up on the roof and did all that. One of the things that the fellow's name is Russ from Becht Engineering, I think it is. His name's Russ Fernandez. And we were looking at the plans, we were flipping through plans. He wanted an electronic copy just so he could compare what he saw to what was supposed to be done. And I finally found an electronic copy through Chris Baldwin had one. So he and Russ, I put them together so they could figure out how to share it, because it's a pretty big document to just send in an email. And so he was going to use that to finish up his report. So we should be getting that soon. I get very regular emails from Downs and from Chief Pugner saying, it's getting cold, what are we going to do? And again, I feel like it's kind of been taken out of our hands in a way until this report comes out and we can use that. When we were at doing our walk around a couple weeks ago, I think David, you might have already left. Roy, you were still there. Or maybe David, you were still there. We were at Johnson and we were looking at that one part of the building, that split face block. And it doesn't look coated to me, and it doesn't seem to leak. So
Yep, I remember the comment. Look at that, it doesn't leak.
Yeah.
Fire range.
So yeah. What's that about?
Well, I bumped into Bob Durkin the other night, and he's under the impression, or maybe it's just what I thought his impression was, is this is going to go to court. It's going to become a lawsuit.
I don't know. I wasn't getting that. I was getting that we were going to get a report and make a decision on what to do. But I think that decision, we as a committee can make recommendations. We can't say yes or no.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying from the way it sounded like from Bob, it was like it was one of these with everybody there, not us. It was.
Right, it is. And it's unfortunately because like we saw that whatever that is at Johnson School, that's place block that doesn't leak. The Matt Knickerbocker is kind of pounding on the table saying, I want a building that doesn't leak and I don't care what it takes to get it. I think he has a valid point, that the contention that, a warehouse type building like Target or Costco is built and then you smother this coating on the outside and, if it leaks a little here and there, oh well. I just don't buy it.
Yeah, I've talked to a lot of people about that, and I know, Roy, John, even Dino, they've all been out in the world. I can't find anyone that has said that they would even think, not expect, but even think that a CMU wall like that would leak or expect it to leak, like to even have any kind of infiltration except for obviously the unknowns.
Right. Well, and so then you get the CT Masons pointing at the design, and the design pointing at CT Masons, and Down saying it's
yeah, I know.
Mess. It's a mess. And I get an email from Chief Pugner that says, when are we starting the work? I'm like, come on,
I'm getting to the point like Gil brought up, God only knows how many months ago. Just throw some vinyl siding up on the damn thing and get it over with.
Well, and there's that idea that's been thrown around. So
it's really, because where are we going to end up? We're going to end up arguing this for another year and a half, 2 years.
I don't want to do
that. A range that's useful.
I don't want to do that.
I don't either. I mean, nobody does. We all know that, but
yeah. Yep. All right. Well, so that's that. And maybe by the next meeting, we'll have a report. Again, I think the report's going to go to the Board of Selectmen, and then they're going to have to bring it to us. But we'll have to see. So I think that's it.
Good.
All righty.
Thank you.
You don't let the cat jump off the counter. Will you watch the cat? Holy crow.
I think the cat just made a motion to adjourn.
He's gonna knock everything off. He's such a pain. He throws everything onto the floor. I'm gonna shorten our meetings. I'm gonna only book it for 3 hours from this point forward.
There you go.
Impossible to shorten our meetings. It'll never happen.
Exactly.
I'm gonna be like, it'll turn off automatically. I'm gonna put a limit on it. 3 hours.
Yeah. That'll be
go off.
So
okay.
Dave, what
Thank
are you
you.
doing?
I made a motion to adjourn.
Ciao.
Thank you, Nancy.
Everything's gonna crash anyway in just a second.
Ciao.
All in favor? All right. Good
Who
night.
seconded it? I
Thanks,
couldn't
everyone.
see.
All
Who
right.
seconded it?
Killed
God
it.
bless.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh my God.